What's up this morning, everyone? Welcome. Fine Tuesday to ya all. Good to see ya. What is up, the Red Soul, Stringman, Queenie Slide, John Donator, Roarix Ventures, Silty, Jerem Dog, John Donator. How is everyone doing today? Hopefully, everyone is having a spectacular Tuesday, a wonderful week. I know you're probably thinking, wait, why are we streaming early today? Normally we stream in the afternoon. Well, the answer is, there's big Commander news. There's big Commander news. Just when you thought the drama was over and everything had faded away, Wizards announced yesterday that they are taking over the format, essentially, or the RC is giving them the format, depending on exactly the details. But today, in a little over an hour, they're doing a stream to talk about all of this, and I'm very curious what they're going to say. So I figured we do a little streaming early, we check out the stream together, we'll play some Magic, and we'll talk about all this Commander stuff, which is super wild. So I'm very curious, and we'll get into this more once we see the stream later. Very curious what you all think of this. So I'm not going to read essentially the entire announcement. You can check it out over on the mothership. But what this says, if you haven't seen this, what this says is basically Wizards is going to be in charge of Commander. The RC is going to essentially be disbanded. They mentioned that Wizards will still get input from community members and so forth, but Wizards will be in charge of Commander. The RC will no longer be a thing. The CAG will no longer be a thing. They are gone. Wizards says this is because of the harassment and the threats that the RC faced, which those are horrible. I'm not sure that is the whole reason Wizards is taking over the format. Maybe it's a part of that reason. And then, even more, they announced that they're going to do this bracket thing, or their idea is to do this bracket thing to break decks down into 4 different groups to try to make people play better matchups against people with decks that are more similar to theirs. It is going to be very wild, but you'll hear much more about this when they do the stream in a little over an hour, so we won't go super deep into it right now. We're gonna play some Magic first, but I am curious. I'm legitimately scared for the future of the format. So I will say 2 things. So on one hand, I think the reaction to this is somewhat overblown in the sense that, is Commander going to disappear tomorrow? No. Is it going to disappear in 2 years or 5 years? I doubt it. Like, I think Commander, people are going to keep playing Commander. It's going to be super just fine. On the other hand, do I think this is good for Commander? I would say no. Like, if I had my choice, even though my relationship to the RC has always been complicated, I've never really agreed with a lot of how the RC handles things. I would rather see them in charge of Commander than Wizards in charge of Commander. So I think if people are saying this is the death of Commander, like it is over with, no one's going to play it anymore, I think that's a little bit extreme. Like, I don't think that's actually going to happen. Long term, do I think this is the best outcome? I would say long term, I don't really think this is the best outcome, but we can talk about them more as we go along. The bracket thing is also very interesting. I think we can agree the worst part of the Commander is the community. I mean, I don't think that's... I would disagree with that, too. Like, yes, there are people who, I guess, would be part of the community who are doing very unacceptable, wrong, horrible things. Like, anyone giving death threats or harassing people, straight up wrong. I don't think that means the Commander community as a whole or as a group is like a problem. I think that's like some percentage of people doing bad things. Like, every community is going to have some percentage of people that are doing those things, and those people should be condemned. And if they're actually sending death threats, they should be arrested. Like, if there's people that are really actually doing death threats, like actual like criminal death threats, but the cops should be involved with that, I would think. Like, that is something that is very serious. So I think those people, definitely a problem. I don't think it's the Commander community as a whole, though. McIntyre, welcome to the Fishbowl. Thank you so much for your subscription. Big super chat for you. Thank you. The other thing I would say is, I think they're going to unban those cards. My expectation, okay, this was also in the end of the article. We didn't get all the way to the end of the article, but at the very end of this article, and then we're going to play Standard while we wait for this stream. At the very end of the article, they say, we will be evaluating the current ban list alongside both the Commander Rules Committee and the community, we will not ban additional cards as part of this evaluation. So to me, this means their only consideration is whether they should unban some cards. While this discussion is the start of this, immediate changes are not on the list, are not our priority. They want to deal with safety stuff first, they say. I think that they are going to unban Jewel Lotus and Mana Crypt. I would not be surprised if they unban them. And I know that, so I've heard people concerned about the messaging, that sends the message to people that, like, the bad guys won, right? They harassed the RC, and now they got the cards unbanned. I don't think that's how Wizards think of it, though. My thinking is, Wizards' thought is, we can sell those cards for a lot of money. They sell a lot of booster packs, so I don't think Wizards' motivation is to send the message that, like, you harass people and you got something out of it. I think that they are purely motivated by, we can sell those cards and sell a lot of packs. Dylan Hunter, welcome to the Fishbowl. Thank you so much for your subscription. Big subscription for you. Thank you. That is just 100% my opinion. That very well could not happen. My guess would be, like, 6 months from now, 8 months from now, 9 months from now, we'll get we reevaluated the Commander ban list. Here's Coalition Victory. It was silly, it was banned. Coalition Victory is unbanned. A few other cards, we don't really need to have Sylvan Primordial, whatever. Maybe not exactly that, but Sylvan Primordial, we don't think that needs to be banned anymore. It's coming off the ban list. And on that list of unbannings, there will also potentially be the Mana Crypts and the Jewel Lotus. Anyway, Wizards taking over was inevitable. That's probably true. I think once Sheldon passed away, I think that it was probably only a matter of time, and I think the RC's bannings made that happen now. Like, it would have happened eventually, I think, either way. No matter what the RC did, no matter how people reacted to what the RC did, sooner or later, Wizards was going to be like, why are we letting these 5 random people control our most profitable format of our $1 billion business? That's insane. So I think sooner or later that was going to happen anyway. What time's the WotC stream? About an hour from now, 1 p.m. Eastern time. We will be checking out the WotC stream. But in the meantime, we're going to see if we can combo off with Doomsday Excruciator in Standard. Let's do reminders real quick. We can start playing as we're trying to combo off. We can talk more about this Commander stuff, and then we will check out the stream. Yeah, what would you... So if Wizards is... Oh, man, I'm getting so ahead of myself. As much as I don't really like Wizards taking over the RC, I am excited about reevaluating the ban list, because I've had issues with the ban list for a long time. So I am excited about that. I think there's some cool stuff that could come off the ban list. But replay YouTube, that's we invite all the old streams, including this one, to the future. Bring back the tuck rule. If you want an unpopular opinion, getting rid of the tuck rule was correct. I feel like getting rid of the tuck rule is kind of the equivalent of getting rid of mana burn or something like that in 60 card formats, where if you're someone who's played a long time, it feels bad and it's such a big change. But overall, when you think of the experience of like new players and so forth, I think it's probably better without the tuck rule, even though I do kind of miss some of the shenanigans you could do. I don't believe from what they've said, they're going to reevaluate the ban list. They're not announcing, as far as they've said, bans or unbans today. They're going to talk about, but I don't even know them taking over the format, what that means. I'm really not exactly sure what to expect. Hey Seth, I just want to say that I'm a long-time viewer of Goldfish, and I love the compilations that you have at the end of the year with the funniest gameplay moments. Looking forward to put one out this year. Well, thank you, Colorolo. And yeah, it's on my list. Once we get closer to the holiday season, we'll get it done. The tuck rule, yeah, just like Brady. Bring back Lutri. Is there a way you could bring back Lutri? A reminder that our sponsor today is Card Kingdom. If you need some magical cards, you pick them up over at cardkingdom.com/mtggoldfish, and of course the YouTube channel. Check it out. Against odds tomorrow, we got a pretty sweet one. We might be shredding some hedges in Standard. But anyway, let's talk about this deck, and then we'll talk about the Commander stuff as we go along. Yeah, I wonder if there could be a change to the hybrid rule. It seems possible with WotC in charge. Although I think, from how I read that article yesterday, I kind of feel like Wizards wants nothing to I feel like they're doubling down on Rule 0 and not banning things. Lutri's a tough one to unban, because I don't know how... Yeah, I wish the ban list was more flexible like that, and you had, banned as Commander back. You could ban Lutri as a companion, but allow it in the 99, or allow it as a Commander. Stuff like that, I think, would actually be really fun. I know the argument, it's, too complicated, but if we're actually moving to this, 4 brackets, cards have point systems, point ranking system, I feel like that's kind of complicated, too. So maybe being too complicated... from like banned as commander, maybe that wouldn't really be too complicated in 2024 Magic. So yeah, I wish there was some more flexibility there. It'll also be interesting to see what Wizards does with CDH now that Wizards is taking over Commander. In theory, that means, I mean, I know they're the same format, but that means Wizards is also taking over CDH. Is like the highest bracket of the bracket system. Is that CDH? Is CDH something else? We don't really know at this point. So anyway, what is the idea of this deck? Our deck is trying to do one thing, which is win with Doomsday Excruciator. Doomsday Excruciator, 6 mana, 6 black pips for his 6/6. Oh no, we're gonna have to restart. 6 mana, 6/6. When it enters, each player exiles all but the bottom 6 cards of their library face down, and then being for upkeep, we draw an extra card, which is actually a drawback. So what we need to do with this, we play this, we exile all but 6 cards of everyone's deck, then the challenge becomes, how can we empty those 6 cards out of our opponent's deck before we die to our Doomsday Excruciator? And our plan here is mostly Scavenger's Talent. So Scavenger's Talent, when we sack a permanent, target player mills through 2 cards on the 2nd level, and then the 3rd level is we can sack 3 permanents, which means we can fully level this up. We can sack 3 permanents on our end step the turn after we Doomsday Excruciator, or the turn that we Doomsday Excruciator, mill our opponent for 6, win the game on the spot. So that's essentially the idea of the deck. Doomsday, Scavenger's Talent, milling out on the spot. Will it work? I haven't played a game with the deck, so I don't know if it's actually going to work, but we will see. Avert your eyes. Oh, I guess the desktop's not that messy right now. Has anyone tried Doomsday Excruciating? It does exile Feast down. Would something similar to the Canadian Highlander point system be okay? My only concern with that comes down to like being too much of a mental load for casual players. I think the Canlander or whatever point system is really cool, right? I think it's really neat, but I don't know if, I don't know. There's this big group of people, I think, that just want to like play a game of Commander, and I don't know if they want to think about like mathing out how many points my Soul Ring is versus my Mana Crypt is versus my Dockside is, and like, it's really fun if you want to do that, but does that work for the biggest, most casual format in Magic? That's the question I have, right? Like, does it work for Commander in specific? I think it works really, really well for Canlander. Not sure if it works that well for, like, a Commander. Seth, I missed the beginning of your stream. I took a nap. Hope you have a great day. Hey, thank you, Savuji. Hopefully you have a great day as well. Dockside is 69 points. Yeah, that's the other thing, is after seeing Wizards' idea of doing this like point system is interesting, but remember like a couple months ago we got the leak of their Brawl rankings where they had the point system for Brawl on Arena, and it kind of blew everyone's minds because it just didn't make any sense. I do worry about that a little bit too, that there's gonna be like one very overworked WotC intern that Marrow walks up to him one day and says, "Hey buddy, I got a project for you. I would like you to go through every Magic card and I would like you to assign a point to them from 1 to 4. Will you please get on this, intern? I expect it by after lunch." So that would be my concern, is how do you actually do that? And even if, let's say you did it in the best way possible, let's say it's actually Marrow or like Wizards' best game designers get together and do this system. Let's say they do that, we're still not all going to agree on it. We're still going to be arguing about like, is this a 2? Is this a 3? Soul Ring is like the best example. Like, Soul Ring is a 1, right? Because it's in every precon. But then Soul Ring's also a 4 based on what I would think of power level wise. So is it a 4? Is it a 1? I don't know. Like, how does anyone know? How does anyone know? So it's going to be very, very, very interesting. Yeah, what would you like to see come off the Commander ban list? The Commander ban list. Let's pull up the ban list real quick. I promise we are going to play some Excruciator here. So on the Commander ban list right now, so Wizards is reevaluating this. I have made no qualms. Is that a word? I think that's the word. But I have been very public about not liking the Commander ban list. So I'm hyped about the reevaluation. I would say, looking at this, here's my super quick rankings. Ancestral Recall, Ain't no way. I think the Power 9 non-starter. You could not bring back the Power 9, and this is going to be hypocritical, but you cannot bring back the Power 9 because of price reasons. And I know that I've said before, and maybe this is the wrong way to phrase it, because really the issue is supply, right? The issue isn't price, because I don't want price to really play a role in bannings. The issue with unbanning Power 9, do you know how many copies of Ancestor Recall exists? Anyone know this off the top of their head? It's deep magic knowledge. Give me a guess. Just give me your guess of how many copies of Ancestral Black Lotus, any individual Power 9 member, how many copies of those cards were printed? Those are all good guesses. There were around 20K. I think the exact number is 22K, 22,000. However, remember, no, this is for all the versions, so alpha, beta, and unlimited. Just like alpha is like 1,000 or something, and then beta is a little more, and then unlimited more than that. So yeah, it's just under 23K, 22 to 23K. But that was all that was printed to begin with. Remember, so this isn't. Oh, can we keep this? All right, we're gonna one land, one keep it. This is a good one lander. We only need a single land, and then we can start sacking stuff and drawing cards. And we have the Excruciator, and we have the Scavenger's Talent. So the issue with the Power 9, why I don't think it can come unbanned, is the reserve list is here, so they can't actually print more of them, and there are only 22,000 copies, and that was back in 1993. I would guess maybe half of those copies are gone. Like, how many of them are lost in people's basements, or were destroyed on playgrounds in 1994 when no one knew these cards were worth anything? How many of them are graded? How many of them are in collections that will never, ever, ever be sold? In someone's vintage cube, in someone's legacy vintage deck. Like, a lot of them don't even exist on the market. So I think unbanning the Power 9 would quite literally make Commander pay to win. Like, that would be my concern, is like, there would be a huge advantage to the people that had those cards, and there would be no way to get more of them. Hey, thank you, Jaws. I appreciate it. So that would be my concern with the Power 9. I think the supply, so it's not really price, it's supply. If they could just reprint the Power 9, oh, come on. Well, that's the risk of keeping the one-landers. Sometimes you find them, sometimes you don't. So, yeah, I actually think, do you think there's any way they could abolish the reserve list? I feel like I have always been, still no land. I have always been an abolish the reserve list person, and I still think philosophically that it should be gotten rid of. But after seeing how much people freaked out over Crypt and Lotus, really, we're just never gonna draw land number 2 here. Okay, apparently not. At least our opponent also missed a land. Wow, missed. Oh my god. All right, maybe we just win with the 1/1 beatdown. Greedy Freebooter beats. We're actually mono black aggro, just playing all the 1-drops. Kill the one that makes a treasure. Please. You gotta do it, opponent. You gotta do it. The 1/1s are gonna get... Oh, they're exiling. Okay. Well, here comes the 1/1. Down 8, dude. Hey, how are you, Zanfast? Good to see you. Good to see you. Yeah, so I think that this actually decreases the odds of the reserve list going away. Opponent gonna do some Thought Season. We really need to draw land. What about Time Twister? Time Twister is currently illegal. Should it be banned? Really? 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 All right, well, Scavenger's Talent, and I guess we pass the turn. I guess, philosophically, I would say Time Twister should be banned, although I don't think it's actually... I guess it doesn't really matter. Like, no one really plays it in casual, and I guess maybe occasionally people play it in CDH, but I don't even know if people really play it that much in CDH. Yeah, we are so far behind here. All right, pass the turn. Oh, we can't add more. I saw Alpha, I think it was Alpha Investments. Alpha Investments video in response to all this stuff was basically the TLDR was we need to bring back the reserve list. I would not agree. I would not agree with that. I think the reserve list is, I still don't like the reserve list. We won land, one kept, but it was, I believe, correct in this case. It was a good 1 land, 1 keep. Okay, there's all the lands, finally. I mean, we actually kind of have a chance-ish, maybe? But I'm not going to crack the land. So, We just need to get to this Excruciator. Opponent, Hostile Investigator, all about that discard. Well, we will discard a Tyrion's Journal. Yeah, we might just be too slow here. Opponent gets a... Yeah, we just missed so many land drops. We get a Swamp. What happens if we just play Excruciator? Do we lose? Do we just do it? So if we play Excruciator, we have to sack all of our treasures. We can level up. But we're drawing extra cards. Do we cast it? Does the math line up? So we each go to 6 cards. Opponent draws first down to 5. We can sack all the treasures, right? Oh, one of those is a food. Huh. Okay, yeah. Well, let's level up the Scavenger's talent. Pass the turn. Yeah, we're going to be too slow. I think they should print tokens of reserve list cards to bypass it. That would be sweet. The problem is Wizards does not like the idea of getting around the reserve list. They believe in the spirit of the reserve list. Unless they're selling the cards for $1,000 for 4 packs. Then the spirit of the reserve list, it doesn't matter. It's... Oh, yeah. Everything's got their price, I guess. And for Wizards, that price is $250 a pack. That's the price where the morals go out the window. Seeing as WotC has so many expensive cards that are on the reserve list, I don't see a reason for it. The only real reason for cards to lose value is power creeping, not really overprinting. Yeah, I mean, in the context we were talking about was doing it. Was the possibility of unbanning the Power 9 in Commander, and I don't think you can unban the Power 9 in Commander unless the reserve list was gone. Well, let's draw a couple cards. Another Scavenger's Talent, another map, play the bat. 1, 2, 3. So in theory, next turn we can play it. We just don't have enough pieces to win. Opponent has a removal spell. Out we make food. Go for the throat, Liliana the Veil. Wait, can we do it? Is this sack? Oh my god, I think we can do it. Oh no, but then kill the Excruciator. We need a land. If we draw a land, we can combo kill next turn. If we draw a land, I think we can combo kill next turn. Or if our opponent plays the Liliana, then we can combo kill next turn. Opponent gonna level up. Oh, it all comes down to this. Opponent. Oh my god. We can do it. We can do the combo kill. Oh my god. One land, one keep. Watch me be wrong about this, but I think this works. Because we have 2 tokens. Opponent doesn't even play anything. Oh no. It doesn't work because we're not fully leveled up. Oh no, I was wrong because it has to be all the way leveled up. So we play the Excruciator, and then we die to the go for the throw. I got so excited about nothing. We don't have an... Wait, can we get an Excruciator in the graveyard? None of these loot. Huh. Yeah, so we just die. So close. Solar System Wolf. Welcome to the Fishbowl. Thank you so much for your subscription. Big super for you. Thank ya. What do y'all make of the bracket idea? Do you think it would be better than the current system? So the current system for trying to do the pregame conversation or rule 0, I see most people default to 1 to 10 scale, and then everything's a 7. Does changing it to like 4 brackets from 1 to 4, with 4 being the best, 1 being the worst, does that actually change anything, or do we end up with everything's a 3 then? Like, is 3 just the new 7, and everyone will just default to saying their deck's a 3? Brackets are fine, but the strongest card to classify your deck is stupid. Yeah, I do have concerns about that. Although, I guess it is worth mentioning that Wizards did say that this was kind of a beta idea, so it's not finalized yet. So maybe we can talk them out of some of the worst parts of it. Yeah, I do worry about that, because I feel like if you take a precon and put a Vampire Tutor or Ancient Tomb in it, I think everyone at the table would have a better experience if you played against other twos or whatever a precon's ranked, probably a two, something like that. But I think everyone would have a better experience if you played against other decks that were similar to precons than if your deck was an automatic 4 and you had to play against like CDH decks. I think you just get absolutely wrecked if you had to play against CDH. Helberto, welcome to the Fishbowl. Thank you so much for your subscription. Big super for you. Thank you. Well, wow, so much removal. People are going to refuse to play outside their bracket, and we have 4 separate formats now. Yeah, that was a point that I hadn't thought of, but I've seen people talk about it, and I think that's an interesting criticism of this plan is, does this just make 4 different commander formats where people are incentivized to CDH each of them, essentially? Like, does this just make 4 different commanders, and you're going to have decks that are ranked a 1, but they're like CDH ones, playing all the best possible cards. And then you have 2 and have like the most spiky 2s. I could imagine a world like, I don't know, from a content perspective, it seems, I imagine there will be articles and videos that are like, here's the 10 most busted cards that are ranked to 2. I broke level 2 commander. Here's the strongest level 2 deck possible. Like, I think that's kind of where the incentive goes, right? Is to do stuff like that. And then that seems to be the opposite of the philosophy of commander as a format, because it's like so spiky. So I think I get what they're trying to do with the bracket idea. Like, I think the idea is to take as much friction as possible out of the pregame conversation. So rather than being like, my deck's a 7, and then you get Mana Crypt, you would be like, okay, my deck's a 2, but I'm playing Mana Crypt that's a 4. Is that okay? I think that's what they're going for. So I think the impulse, like, if you are going to manage the format based on Rule 0, if that's how you want to do it, like, making that conversation as easily accessible as possible, I think, is a good thing. I don't know if the bracket thing actually gets it done. I'm on board with the bracket system as a new player. I don't like getting paired against a turn 3 deck against my precon on Commander Night. I'm hoping the brackets help me pair against other lower stuff. Definitely agree, Ginger, that is... I agree. I agree with that as far as, like, the goal. I think that goal is a very good one. I don't want to get paired against... Both of those are bad for us. Well, I guess we take the Shieldred and then make them kill the bat to get it back, and we just pass. We need our Excruciator. And we could also use the Scavenger's Tail. That would be helpful about it. But yeah, I don't know if the bracket thing will solve it. It would be nice if it did. But I definitely agree that matching against other decks of similar power level is something that would... Well, that's not the worst. It's something that would be very helpful. My LGS Commander Night, every Commander Night I've been to my LGS has people actively avoiding pub stomping, noobs. Feels like no one wants to play 8s against 5. That is true. I don't think... I mean, I'm sure there's rare instances where someone is kind of whatever... a jerk or something and wants to pub stop noobs, but in general I think that's true. Like, you see that with CDH players all the time, right? Like, CDH playing the strongest possible version of Commander, those people don't want to play against your precon deck. They don't want to play against my Commander Clash deck. They want to play against other people who are also playing decks of a similar power level. So I think it's true that everyone in general wants that fair matchup. The challenge is, how do you make that happen? That's the tricky part. That's what WotC's trying to solve, right? It's really hard to grade exactly how powerful one of your decks are. Like, it's not that easy to grade how powerful one of your decks are. We have just drawn a lot of nothing. So yeah, that's kind of what they're trying to fix. What will the stream be about? Haha. Dreams of Oil and Steel, eh? How about a swamp? We know it's about Wizards taking over Commander. Beyond that, I'm not exactly sure what they're going to say here. I don't know if they're going to go into more details. I'm really not sure. That is interesting. Yeah. Would Commander with 4 ban lists be better? Because that almost might. That's the other way the 4 bracket thing could end up, right? Is like, could we stop drawing swamps? It could end up like being 4 separate ban lists in a weird way, where your cards that are 4s aren't legal at 3 and 2 and 1. Your cards that are 3s aren't legal in 2 and 1. That really splits the format, though. But maybe Commander is so big that it doesn't matter. Maybe the format's just big enough that you can afford to split it, and it's fine. We could really use a Doomsday Excruciator. How about right now? Right now off the top. Go for the throat. Well, go for the throat's better than nothing. Not that much better than nothing, because our opponent can Ruthless Negotiations, but it's slightly better than nothing. Opponent combat in. Fire it up, fire it up. Oh, opponent does not fire up the cottage. Gets and hits us. We have a new donation from Aklazot's, good God. Makiri with a $20 donation. I don't know why we have such different experiences. I play against mono red quite often in best of 3. The turn 2 kills happen with annoying frequency. Obviously, there are answers, but not great. To have an untap land on turn 1 and to have a untap land on turn 1 and turn 1 removal. Yeah, so just so it's clear, I think that Leyline is especially a problem in best of 1, but I don't think it's unproblematic in best of 3. I think it's a problematic play pattern. Like, when it comes down to it, that's we're not getting out of this. Case of the Smash Skeleton. That's the issue, right? When it comes down to it, it is just a inherently problematic play pattern. The idea that you have a deck, even 20% of the time, that kills on turn 2 in Standard is wild to me. And if you look at the metagame, if you look at, like, whatever tracker you use, the best of 1 meta, it is the most played deck in the format. The like, Rakdos Fling deck. If you look at the best of 3 meta, it's technically the most played deck in rule prowess as well. So I think the idea that it's unproblematic in best of 3 is not true. It's just more problematic in best of 1. I think it's like a 10 out of 10 or 9 out of 10 in best of 1 and like a 7 out of 10 or 8 out of 10 in best of 3. So that's kind of how I view it. Thank you for the donation, Makiri. I'm actually kind of surprised. How did they end up printing? Hey, what's up, Cat Cam fan? How did they end up printing Red Leyline? That's a card. I kind of feel like Red Leyline should have been a Modern Horizons card. I think it's a cool modern card, but I am not as sure that it's a good card for Standard. And the more I play against it, the Bat Scoop? Do people? Wow. Our opponent, a Bat hater. Brackets won't work without a point system. It's not just about one card being good, it's about how many good cards. That's the other thing too, right? I think a good example of that, I think a good example of how it's so hard to rank cards is something like, let's just run it back. Is something like Shuko, maybe. Let's go with Shuko. Like, Shuko would be a 1, right? It's a completely unplayable card. But if you're a Nadu deck, then Shuko's the best, literal best card except for your commander in your entire deck. Then it's a 4. So I think that's, like, how would this point system account for combos? Like, Restoration Angels, a 2, unless you got Kiki Jiki, then it's a 4. So I almost think it has to go beyond, like, it almost has to go beyond just the individual cards in some way. I think that, and what they really need is some sort of tool where you can just, like, put your deck list in and it tells you how strong your deck is. I don't know if it's possible to do that, but that's really what we need, is like the equivalent of Goldfish or something, where you can just, like, have a deck list, throw your deck list in there and be good to go. Know your score, know what's going on. I think that would be the best solution. Exactly how we get to that point, that's a whole nother question. I don't know how we actually get there, like who's gonna build that and invest in it, but can we talk about how instead of following decades of convention of having tier 1 be the highest tier in the game. They went with 4. I'm so annoyed by this. I have a question for you. Do any of you play, I believe it's Pokemon? Do any of you play Pokemon? Because one thing I've heard people say, and I don't play Pokemon, so I can't speak to it, is that this system is essentially something that was implemented in Pokemon in almost like the exact same circumstances, where there was like a player-run format that took off. Smogon, whatever that is. Yeah. Is that Smogon? Is that actually a good comparison? I don't know enough about the game to know if... I've heard a lot of people mention that it's basically the same thing. It's pretty similar. How does it work there? Like, does the bracket system work well there? I might have to do some research on it. About it. Enduring Innocence draws a card. Like, if you're someone that plays that format, is it enjoyable? Like, Smogon is super fun. It's a website where you can play everything for free. More people play Smogon than official tournaments for sure. Wow, so apparently it's worked really well there. WotC's stream starts at 1 Eastern, so about 36 minutes from now. Just over a half hour from now. Oh boy, that's a big beatdown. Maybe this deck is not good. Maybe our deck is not that good. Wait, can we survive? We block here. 1, 2, 3. We can't block with this. We need 3 things to sack. I think we die, but we're gonna try. We're gonna try to win. We're gonna try to win. We're gonna pass. We're not gonna sack anything. If we are alive and we draw land, we can try to combo kill. I don't think we'll be alive. It'll depend on enchantments. Depending on how many enchantments they have. Even just an enchantment land, though, is probably gonna be enough with double scavengers. Oh, did you see the budget? Yeah, they got it. Did you see our budget deck? The Auras deck is like 5-0ing leagues now. It looks like that deck is actually kind of legit. Well, Deadly Cover-Up seems helpful. Cut Down seems helpful. Maybe the Aclazats? Well, I just want to combo with Doomsday Excruciator. Is that really too much to ask? I mean, at least we're not dying on turn 2 so far. That's a win. Howdy, Seth. Have you heard of the format called Primordial? If you had one set to build a 40-card deck, which set would it be? I'm not really familiar with Primordial. I feel like I've heard the name before, but I'm not really familiar with it. What is the idea of Primordial? Is it just that like you have to build a 40-card deck, but you only get one deck to, or one set to build it out of? Huh. What would the set be? What would I go with? Huh. Well, let's take this Glimmer. Leave our opponent with a bunch of lands. That's a really good question. Alpha has the Power 9 stuff, which is kind of busted. So I could see a vote for Alpha. I like Rise of the Eldrazi a lot. I like Khans a lot. Funwell, welcome to the Fishbowl. Thank you so much for your subscription. Big tip, thank you. All right, we are aggressively leveling up because we need this full level to be able to pull off the combo. We have the Excruciator. This might be the game. Do we know at all when and how new cards would get classified? All we know right now is what they posted in that article yesterday, which was honestly a pretty minimal amount of information. So really we do not know how they would classify cards or anything really. I think we're going to sack this bat. This might be the death of us, but I would like to draw cards. I would like to make food. And we really, really want to hit our land drops because we can just win with this. Okay, that's land. We got a shot. We got a shot. The Excruciator's in hand. Are we pulling off the combo kill opponent? So they can play their Glimmer. We can try to kill it. If they protect it, then we can just Wrath. Opponent. Optimistic Scavenger. Sorry, I'm late to the conversation. Have you shared your thoughts on Wizards taking over Commander? I'm 50-50 on if it's good or bad. So we've been talking about it as we go along. And we're also going to be checking out the stream in about a half hour to see what WotC has to say. I personally think it's worse. I think it's worse with Wizards running it than not running. I think part of the charm of Commander is it was a player-run format, and I like that, at least in theory, the RC is a bit of a buffer between maybe Wizards' worst impulses as far as aggressive monetization by power creeping and so forth. They're kind of a buffer there, right? And it kind of makes me sad that the RC... Oh, the stream window's messed up a little bit. Oh, wait. My stream window's messed up? Let me see. It kind of makes me sad that when the RC finally did things, when they finally... We got to go for the combo kill. We got to go. We got to try it. How many ways do they have an instant speed? Oh, they can't. All right, we're going to go for it. All right, here comes Doomsday Excruciator. The big demon comes down. Everyone exiles everything but their bottom 6 cards. This should work. As long as they can't kill this at instant speed. We need the body. We need the body on the battlefield. Exile it all. Then we will go to our end step. On our end step, we will sack 3, 1, 2, 3. Combo. It's a combo. Sure, we'll get back the bat. Doesn't really matter. Could get back the Excruciator. Milieu 2, Milieu 4, Milieu 6, and that is the combo kill. That's how you can actually win with a Doomsday Excruciator. We did it. We actually did it. It makes me sad that the RC, when they finally did things, they get disbanded. It's that part. They finally took aggressive action, which I believe, whether you like the bans or not, I believe they did with good intentions. I think they thought that it was going to improve the format, even though it didn't end up being an opponent. Mill them out. Yeah, it is kind of sad that they got disbanded when they finally started doing things. No bans for 3 years, finally banned some stuff. And Watsy's just like, you're out of here. Oh, what brought back the bat? So this deck, Scavenger's Talent's the key piece there. Scavenger's Talent, the fully level up mode, the last level, is at the beginning of your end step. You can sack 3 other non-land permanents. If you do, you reanimate a creature from your graveyard with a finality counter. The reanimation doesn't really matter. It's mostly because level 2 is when you sack something, mill someone for 2. So we can sack the 3 permanents, which ends up being mill 6, which is exactly enough to combo with Doomsday Excruciator, because it exiles all but the bottom 6. So that's kind of the synergy. We're gonna mulligan this. That hand does nothing. This hand at least has some card draw. Swamp to the bottom? That might be greedy, but swamp to the bottom. Yeah, it's possible. It's possible 25 would be better. Our curve really, so it's tops out at 3 except for Excruciator. Do you think the RC giving players a heads up when they were banning all those cards would have helped at all? If done right, I think so. Not that everyone would be happy, and I think there would still be people who were salty and upset about it, but I think it would be less than it was with how they did do it. Yeah, I hope Wizards, speaking of polls, I hope Wizards does a poll with this new grading system, and let's say community, almost like EDH Rec does this assault score. I kind of hope that Wizards does that. If they want to grade commander cards, put it to the community. Let us grade the cards. It works for the assault score on EDH Rec. Like, put up a website. You could do it almost exactly like the assault score on EDH Rec. Oh, boy. Clunky. Yeah, we kind of wanted that removal spell. Also, not considering the CDH community all is kind of jerky. I will say I don't actually consider that. Well, so I guess we can argue the philosophy of that, but it has always been when Sheldon was there, now that Sheldon's not there, the RC had always been pretty clear that they ban cards for casual. And I actually don't think that's the wrong philosophy, because I think that that's how most people play Commander, and I think that's what the format was designed to be. So I think that banning based on casual actually is really the only way to do it, because the bans that would make CDH best and the bans that make casual Commander best are not the same thing. There's a lot of cards that are perfectly fine in CDH that are not fine in casual. Do you think that Soul Ring ruins their scale since precons are a 1 and Soul Ring is a 1? I mean, it is kind of a contradiction, right? Like, how do you handle that? Someone said you just got to make it so it's a 1, but only if you play the Unchanged precon. The Jace the Mind Sculptor band in Standard technique. You can play Soul Ring in a deck that's a 1 if it's exactly the precon, but once you change one card in that precon, then you're a 4. Then you got to go play the CDH tables. And get absolute, and then no one's happy because the CDH players aren't going to enjoy beating you, and you're not going to enjoy the beatdown. Oh yeah, it was yeah, you're right. It was the same ban announcement, but it was Stoneforge was the card that was in the precon. You are correct. But yeah, it was when Jason Stoneforge got banned during the Callblade era. I wish the system would be some sort of like average. Do you think that the problem is people care about winning too much? In a 4-player game, you should only win 25% of the time. So shouldn't you be going to the game expecting to lose? Thank you for the bits, by the way, Totes. I mean, maybe, but everyone can play their own way. Like, I treat Commander incredibly casually. I do not really care if I win a game of Commander or not. I just want to like have fun with my friends and have fun with the people I'm playing with. Like, that's what I want to do in a game of Commander. So I go out of my way for the most part. You know how I love playing miserable cards in Constructed? Nothing I love more than blood mooning someone or locking someone out of the game. Like, that's my favorite way to play Magic in 60 card formats. But when it comes to Commander, I refuse to play those cards. I don't think I've ever played a blood mooning Commander. I try not to do that because I want people to everyone to have fun playing Commander. So I have found Commander to be better for me personally when I don't care about winning. That's what 60 card formats are for. If I want to make someone miserable and try to win, I'll just play Modern or Pioneer, Timeless, or Standard. So I just treat Commander differently. It's worked for me, but at the same time, I don't think that's the only way to play Commander, right? Like, if you want to play with a focus on winning, I think that's 100% fine. That's just not how I choose to play. Don't play Blood Moon and Commander because your mana base is too greedy. I mean, that might be part of it. But I mean, even other meme cards, for the most part, I try not to like play stacks. I try to play prison stuff. Unless we're having a theme where that's like specifically the goal. Man, these one-landers. This one-lander had so much removal and a bat. Oh boy. Okay, so apparently one land, one keep is not going to work for this deck. Valley Rot Caller and Death. I only play Blood Moon in my Norn deck. Well, there's a land. Yeah, I guess we gotta start killing things. Well, let's just pass. Tundra Palace. Welcome to the Fishbowl. Thank you so much for your subscription. Big subscription for you. Thank you, opponent. Popping off with the lizards. We need to get to 5 mana somehow. Jeez. Man, Lizards is kind of going off here. Well, maybe this deck is just... Maybe Excruciator is just not good enough. In some ways, we're like, we know black is good. Maybe it's just not a very competitive way to build a black deck. Propaganda, the most egregious of Stacks pieces. I like to play with weird old cards. I like to play with weird old cards, too. Like... I feel like that's what Commander was designed to be, supposed to be. And I think that's changed. I mean, the funny thing is, I don't think it's just Commander. I think it's just Magic. I think it's actually just Magic because, like, I like to play janky, weird cards in Modern, and Magic's just, like, changed and moved in a different direction. It's much, much harder to do that. Or, like, maybe I need to change my definition of what jank is. Maybe jank is not, like, some win the game card from 2007. Maybe jank is you know, the 20th best rare from Modern Horizons 3 instead of the 19th best rare in Modern Horizons 3. But yeah, I've run into that issue in every format, actually. Well, let's Deadly Cover Up. I guess we should get in with the bat first, right? Get in, gain a life. Opponent's gonna get back this Rock Caller, although we can kill it. We'll Deadly Cover Up. We'll pay the 5. We will exile something. What is the best exile target? Vine Lash? We probably just cannot beat a Vine Lash. Yeah, let's get rid of Vine Lash. Hired Claw Flame Caller. Get rid of the Vine Lashes. Val? Okay, don't usually see Val, but sure. Well, exile the Dorks. Pass the turn. Dr. Sandor! How's everyone enjoying the Commander Apocalypse? It has been, I think this is the wildest situation, the wildest week for as long as I've been in Magic. I think it tops Magic 30. Magic 30 was a pretty good freak out. Pay the Pros, nowhere near this level. Can you think of, what would be number 2? What would be Pinkertons? That's probably recency bias. Is there anything that comes close to the level of drama as this Commander stuff? I don't think it is. Do we kill the Hired Claw? But then they get to play this Flame Caller. Yeah, let's kill it. Let's kill the Hired Claw. They probably wanted that damage. Found it. Laughing Jasper Flint. Well, we draw Preacher of the Schism. Better than drawing nothing. Get in with the Skeleton. Hit it out at 17. Oh, 30th anniversary. Yeah, that was a big one. Walking Dead. Walking Dead was a good one. Heavy Super Sweet Budget deck. Oh, let me see, Rooker. Gleeful Arabella, eh? Some Historic Artisan. Yeah, Arabella seems like it could be super powerful. I've been thinking I could try it in Standard with the same kind of synergies as like the Boros Convoke deck. That looks sweet. I have to give it a try. Why am I more productive at work while watching Seth streams? Hey, I think that's a good justification to be able to watch a stream at work. You should tell your boss that if they ever get mad. I'm actually more productive while I'm watching Twitch. The hype train is running. Phonic gonna block with a Flame Caller. Yep, Laughing Jasper Flint steals a case of the Stash Skeleton. Ooh, Goyf Gate. Oh, Goyf Gate. The Crackgate? Crackgate. Technically, Crackgate is the biggest Magic drama of all time. Or Crack Style. Technically, if you just go by the internets and what was most popular on the internets, that would be the one. About it, thinking of blocking. Hello, Cease. Come say hello to your fans. How are you, kitty? How are you? How you doing, Cease? Say hi to everyone. Can you meow? Can you meow on the mic? Yeah? Can you do it? Can you do it? Yeah? You want to get down? All right. There you go. Good job, Cease. Good job. She kept me up. Oh, my God. She was... I don't know what her problem was last night, but she started meowing and just wouldn't stop, and I checked her food and her water and all that stuff. It was fine. So I ended up closing around the bedroom, thinking it would quiet her down. So then she sat outside the bedroom and scratched on the door, so I went and gave her new food, thinking that would get her to stop. Oh, my goodness. And then she did it again, like 20 minutes later. Sometimes she gets in that mood. Well, there's all the Scavenger's talents that we kind of wanted. Those are part of our combo. Opponent passes. We draw a greedy freebooter while go to combat. attack you. Down to 8. I mean, somehow we're kind of just winning this race, though. This is not how our deck is designed to work. Wow, are we going to get the whole reverse Reno here? Are we going to get Doomsdayed by our opponent? Come on, opponent, do it. You got the Scavenger's talent. Let's see if our opponent knows how to combo with our deck. Because if they... Oh, I guess they have to cast it this turn, and they don't have these leveled up. If they level up a Scavenger talent, just Laughing Jesper Flint the Excruciator, they do actually just win. Hey, what's up, Paladin? How are you? Good to see you. Yeah, I might have to do a documentary about that. Watsy streaming, yeah, 15. Hey, what's up, doggy? Yeah, early stream for commander drama purposes. The Watsy stream talking about something to do with the takeover of the commander format is happening in about 15 minutes. So early stream, so we can check that out together. Do you think there could be benefits for them to seeing commander staples up close and doing a better job at reprinting them? For example, they could put Smothering Tithe in standard without much of a problem, or the Great Hanger 3 visits. Wait, what would the upside be though? 10 years, isn't that wild? KVS, welcome to the Fishbowl. Thank you so much for your subscription into the hype train. Big scoop share for you. Thank you. Been a rough week. My brother passed away last week. Coming here for the good vibes. Oh, Paladin, I'm sorry. I'm lucky that I have not had to deal with that specifically yet. I have a lot of brothers and sisters, and so far I haven't had to deal with that, but I'm sure I will someday, and not looking forward to it. So thoughts with you, Paladin. But wait, what is the upside part? That's the part I'm confused by. Is it an upside of them taking over the format? I don't know if it's an upside of them taking over the format, because they could do that now, right? Like, they already, in theory, I think should know. They already, in theory, know what the commander staples are. So I don't know what would be preventing them from. I guess we should have played that first. Well, not really. We wanted to see what we were gonna draw. Well, let's wait. What's in our graveyard? No Excruciator. Well, let's do it. Let's level up. Fully level up. Mill ourselves, because we could hit an Excruciator. We do not. Sack you, and are we killing ourselves? Do we even want to do this? Is it even worth it? Sack, get back the Preacher? Mill 6. And we scry, and we get a treasure, and then we get a tutor. Yeah, I think we do it. Sack. Get back Preacher of the Schism. Mill ourselves. Swamp to the bottom. All right, mill some cards. All right. Well, find us an Excruciator. Opponent exiles. Lands at Ecclesize. Okay, we just got to draw the Excruciator or a land. If we draw land, we can do it with the Case of the Stashed Skeleton. Opponent, combat end. Are we attacking? With the Preacher of the Schism? Opponent, gonna get in there. We're gonna block with a token, because we want to trigger this Preacher. Okay, we'll drop to 7. That's fine. Land? How about a land? Oh, we dropped to 8. That's still fine. We get to draw land. That's a land. This should work, right? Combo kill 1, 2. So sack, Case to the. Oh, we gotta sell that on our end step. It didn't salve yet. Oh, so we can't tutor. Oh, life is bad. Life is really bad. Oh, man, is Case to the Stashed Skeleton just bad? Maybe it's just bad. Kinderitis! And also Swing for 0. And also Action Gnome. Welcome to the Fishbowl. Thank you so much for your subscription. Big subscription. Thank you. Well, I guess we just need to draw an Excruciator. Get in there. Draw a Deep Cavern Bat. Not an Excruciator. Opponent takes the beats down to 5. Now we can play a Deep Cavern Bat. Take a Hired Claw. Can we live another turn somehow? All right, pass the turn. Finally solve the case. No. Opponent steals 1, 2. Oh, go for the throat. Kills us. Oh. Do you think that Wizards could work closer with the community on reprints that they need for Commander? Yeah, we're dead even through this. Boom, Milia. We were so close. Cases-skeleton, yeah. We can't eat enough food, though, to get out of it, right? 4, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, plus this adds 1, 2, 3, 14, 15, 16. We can't food up to 16. We can food up to 13. We needed the bat to live. If the bat lived, we had a shot. We had a shot. Couldn't find the Excruciator. So, I mean, it's okay, Bear. So, could Wizards work closer with the community to determine what needs to be reprinted? Yeah, they could. The thing is, Wizards knows what needs to be reprinted. Wizards has more data about this than any of us do. Like, Wizards knows more than anyone what the prices of cards, what needs to be reprinted. They have economists working on staff. So the issue isn't a lack of knowledge. It's that Wizards wants some cards to be expensive. Like, it's beneficial to Wizards. Like, look at Soul Ring and Mana Crypt. They're two very similar cards, both printed in the earliest days of Magic. One of them is $2 because Wizards decided to make it $2. One of them is $200 because Wizards thought it would be more beneficial at $200. They could make Mana Crypt $2 if they wanted to, and, well, I couldn't do it now, but they could have made Soul Ring $200. So yeah, I don't think it's a lack of knowledge about what needs to be reprinted. It's just that Wizards' goals don't always line up with making cards as cheap as possible. Sometimes they do. Sometimes it's, and I gotta give Wizards a lot of credit in some ways. Like, as much as Modern Horizons has caused issues in various formats, it has also done an amazing job of dropping the prices of things like fetch lands. Like, it blows my mind. If you've been playing Magic for any amount of time, you will know that one of the biggest complaints about Magic 10 years ago was the price of fetch lands. This was a ever-present complaint where Scalding Tarn was pushing $100 at one point. It was pricing people out of formats. Commander decks were more expensive. Wizards has done a really, really good job. Like, look at this. These are a whole bunch of fetch lands that are $8 to $13, $14. That's mind-blowing. Like, so they have done a really good job in some cases, but then not in all cases. There's also some cards that yeah, could definitely still use some reprints. Yeah, I remember those days. Hey, what's up, Stone Rain? How are you? Good to see you. So as far as this ban list, here's my quick breakdown before we get to the WotC stream. Here's my quick thoughts on this. So we know they're reevaluating the ban list. I'm curious what y'all want on this. So my just quick breakdown of this would be Power 9 we already talked about. I don't think you can do it. Balance, I don't think they're gonna unban mass land destruction type effects. Biorhythm, I always kind of thought, yeah, you could probably have, like, how do we feel about 8-mana win cons? I guess that's the question. We have a couple of them on the list, right? So we have this, we have Coalition Victory. Are we okay with 8-mana cards that, with the right hoops jump through, just win you the game? I kind of feel like the answer would be Yeah, and I guess it goes back to the bracket thing. Like, does bracket 1, where everyone's playing precons, want biorhythm? Maybe not. But is this a problem in CDH? No. Is it a problem in a 3 out of 4? Probably not. Like, it's kind of the opposite of Crater Hoof. It's like a Crater Hoof that rewards you for your opponent not having any creatures, right? Like, each player's life total becomes the number of creatures that he or she controls, that they control. So essentially, if you can wrath the board and play this, I guess you kill everyone. If you can wrath the board and have a creature land, like a Mutavault that you could activate, you would have won, everyone else dies. You want Emrakul unbanned. Black Lotus, no. Braids. With Braids, I'm like, bring back Bandus Commander. That's like the biggest answer here. Do we want Braids to be a commander? No, probably not. I don't think people would enjoy playing against Braids regularly as a commander when you always have access to it. Is Braids in the 99 a problem? I don't think that Braids in the 99 is a problem. Channel is an absurd card that should probably be banned, especially since we've been currently banning fast mana. Chaos Orb has dexterity issues, so I don't think any of the dexterity shards should be unbanned. Emrakul's an interesting one. Personally, I don't really like how Eldrazi impact Commander. I feel like Eldrazi, my experience with them has been one person gets wrecked by Annihilator and then someone else wraths the board. And if you're the one person who had to sack all their lands before the board got wrath and the game continues, it feels so bad if you're that person. So I wish, like, honestly, really, truly, I wish that the Annihilator was each opponent. I know that it makes it way stronger, but I feel like it would reduce the feel bads that Eldrazi have if it was just like, when I attack, each opponent has to sack 6 things. I know it makes it even stronger, but my issue with Eldrazi isn't that they're like too strong. They can be very strong, really good finishers, but it's more about the feel bads that bothers me. So I almost wish it was just like, everyone sacks. If it was non-land, that would be like the fixed version. Emrakul perfectly fine if it was non-land. Actually, it still takes an extra turn. Emrakul would still be very strong if it was non-land, but how many times do you hear people complaining about how anticlimactic Crater Hoof is? Or instant Felidar Guardian? How do we simultaneously activate for a card being boring as Coalition Victory and Biorhythm being unbanned because, it's not too strong yet? We complain about similar effects. I guess that is a fair point. That is a fair point that we do complain about. Like, Ugin came down and just like dominated the game and changed the entire game by itself or whatever. So maybe it would just be adding more of those things. Arayo is another one, 99 perfectly fine. If you've never seen this card, essentially if it's your commander, if you play 4 spells in a turn, you flip it into an enchantment that says counter the first spell that each opponent plays each turn. Essentially, if this is your commander, it's very easy to be like Mox Diamond, Mox Opal, Mishra's Bauble, Ornithopter. Just overload your deck with those type of effects and just flip this on turn 2, and then you're like, ha, I counter all your spells. Like, I don't have a way to kill you or anything, but you're not doing anything for the next 5 turns. In the 99, you can't really build around it to that extent, so maybe it would be fine in the 99. I don't think it should be a commander, though. Falling Star Dexterity, Fast Bond. This is when I've seen some people say unban it. All right, wait, let's see. Is the Magic stream live? All right, starting soon. I got it pulled up. Well, as soon as I actually start doing things, we'll jump over to it. Fast Bond, if you watch our no ban list Commander Clash, the card's obscene. It is obscene. Before that Commander Clash where we played with it unbanned, I might have been like, okay, like, sure, it'll power up some weird combo deck or something. After that game, though, I'm like, no way, no. If someone drops this on turn 1, it is so ridiculous. So ridiculous. So yeah, I don't think you should come off. Lustful G's, welcome to the Fishbowl. Thank you so much for your subscription. Big super, thank you. Flash, gotta keep it for the CDH players. Perfectly fine and casual. This is the one ban in the history of Commander where CDH used its one time. And they really needed a ban, and the RC was like, you know what, we're not going to do this because we don't believe in banning for CDH, but we'll give you your one time and we will ban Flash for you. So it's really just a CDH thing. Doesn't matter for casual. Gifts Ungiven, I think, fully could be unbanned. Why? What is the argument for keeping this ban in a world where Entomb is legal and so forth? Like, why? Intuition's legal. Why? I don't even understand why this is actually banned to begin with. What's the argument for having it? What's the argument for actually? I know they say you can tutor up 2 combo pieces, but we got a lot of cards that can do that. Now, maybe in 2009 it was kind of different. So that's when I feel like, yeah, like Gifts Ungiven probably was a problem in 2009, but in 2024, I feel like it could be unbanned. Just Oath, welcome to the Fishbowl. Thank you so much for your subscription. Big Soup Jeffrey, thank you. Golos. I know this is gonna make people mad because some people love their Goloses. I think that Golos is exactly the kind of commander that they should not design. I really strongly dislike 5-color good stuff commanders. If they push you in a direction, I think it's fine. Golos, one thing we've learned about Commander is commanders that can cheat on the command tax tend to be overpowered. Golos, it only cheats halfway with its ETB, but it makes up for this by being able to tutor up any land. So this can grab your Cabal Coffers or your whatever, Vesuva. It can grab your Nykthos. So I feel like Golos, I think, has to stay, even though if you want to rules in your play group or whatever, go for it. But yeah, and you also, here's what sold me on Golos being banned. And I think what we're going to do is we're going to watch this, the WotC stream when it starts any minute. And then we'll come back and finish the ban list after we're done with the WotC stuff. What sold me on Golos never being unbanned is there is a commander clash where we tried to build like the worst versions of good commanders, and I had Golos, and my idea was to build Golos Scout Tribal. I was gonna build Golos Scout. Every creature in my deck was a scout. It was like 40 scouts in the deck. It was so incredibly bad, and it turned out I still absolutely just rolled over the table because Golos was so strong. It was Golos. I tried to build the safest possible version, and it still. Oh, here we go.
You're gonna spend the
and it still did it. Here we go.
Talking about, we've been doing a lot of listening over the past
how's the volume
hours,
level? They pulled out the big guns.
In our Discord.
They pulled out the big guns.
Various social media
Gavin
channels to
and
gather
Aaron.
A bunch of questions you all have had.
How are we doing volume level wise?
Commander yesterday. So we're going to spend time talking about that.
You can hear them. You can hear me.
We have a bunch of questions that we've pulled from various places all over the internet since then. We are going to take questions in chat. I'm not going to be watching.
I need to be louder, or they need to be louder. Aaron Forsyth is, I believe, the president of Wizards, longtime game designer for Wizards. He's been there been there forever.
So that they can
but I believe he is currently vice president.
I do have a long list, and so some of your questions may get answered as we go along. So you may want to hold them and see if we get to them at first. But if not, feel free to put them in, and we'll be collecting them as we go.
All right.
And we're going to spend the next hour just answering questions. That's all we're going to be doing. So
is that too loud?
And doing that for us are 2 fantastic guests. You are definitely familiar with these 2 people. We've got Gavin Berry and Aaron Forsyth. Real quick, if people don't know who you are,
they're going to introduce themselves. I will say that Gavin has absolutely crushed it with what he has done with Pauper. If they could make a world where they did what they did with Pauper, but with Gavin and Commander, I think it would be great. Like, if the world was Gavin's in charge, he gets some community members to help him, I think that would be the best thing Wizards could do to run this format. Because I don't trust Wizards. I am skeptical of corporations in general. I am doubly distrustful of Wizards because they're the corporation that I know the most because I do Magic for a living. Gavin is the person at Wizards I trust the most by a pretty big margin. There's other people I trust, and I like a lot of people at Wizards. But Gavin I know loves the game more than anything.
To Wizards of the Coast. How did we get here?
I want to see their
it has been
their story of
quite the week, I would say. So last Monday, the Commander Rules Committee announced some bans for the Commander format of Nadu, Dockside Extortionist, Jeweled Lotus, and Mana Crypt. And of course, when you're making bans at this level, there's going to be a lot of discussion around it. And the discussion was very heated. It quickly became very heated and escalated immensely. Far beyond the scope that I think anyone could have anticipated for this. Oh, it's been tough. It was really tough listening to how far it escalated, all the way up to hateful messages, death threats, and more. Being in calls with these people, with the rules committee, who I would consider close friends. It's just tough. It's really tough to see that. And so, we started discussions midway through the week with them. What are we going to do, right? This is clearly not okay. And I think one of the things is the rules committee are 5 people who are so incredible and so dedicated to Magic, and they have done such a great job shepherding Commander. But
it is 1,000,000% true that people went too far on this. Some people
all
went
the
too
other
far.
duties they have, and there's a huge role.
No debate about it.
And they're volunteers as well. And the amount of problematic messages they were receiving and the amount of impact it was having on their lives was immense. And we at Wizards have a lot of resources. We can kind of dedicate ourselves full time to working on this stuff. So we started talking with them about what the different paths forward could be, what kind of collaboration we could do. And ultimately, we all kind of reached the conclusion together that the best way forward was for them to give us the format, which they were very much on board with doing. And it was something that Jim and others and the whole committee felt strongly about. It was not an easy decision to reach.
Yep.
It was an emotional week. And it's not what any of us intended going into this conversation.
These have private cops that people
years
fear
now,
companies. People
would ask me internally and externally, like, why don't we?
I agree with that.
When
like,
is Wizards going
people
to
giving
take
death
over
threats, they
Commander?
should be prosecuted.
And my answer was always like, I don't want to. Like, I don't need to. Like, I have
what's up,
enjoyed
Yuzuki?
that this community created format has been run by the community. They've done an excellent job. Throughout the years, we've worked with them, to implement things in the comp rules or whatever. We've showed them stuff in advance to make sure it fits the vision and
that's one thing there is no debate about, right? Whether you agree with the bannings or
we got to
don't.
a point now where like we need to, like, just
whether
based
you
on
like Darcy or
the
don't.
goings
Like,
on
I think the
in
one thing
community,
everyone should be able to agree on
want
is
to or not, like this falls on us now. And
one thing
this is
everyone
the
should be
best
able to
path
agree
forward.
on is harassment and death threats are always unacceptable.
Yeah, and I'll say, just to Aaron's point, we have these things for design where basically we give talks about designing for a format. And in my talks, so many times I've given about Commander, I talk about how important the rules committee is and the great job they've done. So it really was.
If you want my opinion, I believe this would have happened either way. I 100% believe that Wizards was going to take over Commander either way. And I think I've seen people say the death threats are real. They don't believe in it. That is incorrect. That is wrong. That is just wrong. That is real. That is actually harming people. But I think that this situation
unfortunately,
gave
this isn't the first
Wizards
time
the
things like this
opportunity
have
to
happened
take over the
Wizards
format, if
employees
that
or
makes sense.
high-profile
Like-
members of the community. So we have plans, we have teams, we have protocol, both trying to help them with stuff going on online, and then at our big in-person events, we beef up our security and assign it as needed to.
I'm also
where we
curious
think there are
how,
problems.
like,
Not
how
to give
does
away too much? Obviously, it's better for everyone if we
like,
keep our
hopefully
tactics
this is
to
a fair
ourselves,
question, but
absolutely,
like, how does
it
Wizards
matters, and
stop
we're doing
people
what we can.
from sending threats or harassing them on the internet? Like,
Okay, let's move on.
How does
from
Wizards
the
being
safety
in
side of
control
things and
minimize
talk
that?
about,
Because I don't really
the
understand
practicality
how
of
Wizards being in
what
charge
comes next. This is
stops
pretty
someone
fresh,
from
but,
giving a death threat.
What,
you
Gavin,
know,
are sort of the next steps? What are you working on now?
Yeah, first of all,
It's a pretty
you're
somber-
absolutely right. Like,
a pretty
this is all,
somber
we started
move
talking
to
about
this
this mid last
stream.
week, and
Oh,
it's been
yeah,
a lot of.
yeah, they could Pinkertons, but that's only for people who got their booster boxes early.
And as we talk through this today, we're going to give you some ideas into what we're working on, but I don't
Right,
have
Gavin.
firm, concrete answers on everything for you today.
But yeah, I
But
think
the
this
most
was going to
important
happen
thing
either
to
way.
us is that although we are managing the format,
Superpen,
it
welcome,
remains
Fishbowl.
a
Thank
community
you
format.
so much
That
for
is
your
critical.
subscription.
That is part of
Thank you,
Commander's
thank you,
success.
thank you.
That is how we have gotten to where we are today, and that's
I don't
something
think
we really
that's.
want to
I don't think it's true
strive
that
with,
people are more scared of
going forward.
WotC.
So
Like,
we're
people,
working.
I'm pretty
with,
sure WotC gets death
We're
threats
talking about
too.
the rules committee and,
I mean,
and CAG, and trying to figure out what we want to do going forward, and kind of the direction that I think we're kind of settling on is something akin to what we've done with the Pauper format panel. Now,
Okay,
I'm not going to say
I
it's
can
going to
get
be a one-to-one
behind that.
analog. We're still figuring out the
I
exact
can get
details
behind
around
that.
it.
That
But a
was
group of folks
exactly
that we
okay.
can work with. And if you're not familiar with the Pauper format panel,
if
it's a group of
Gavin,
folks that are all very
it's
dedicated
gonna
to
depend
the
on who
format
that head person
that
is.
I work on from the Wizards
If
side, and
that
they
is
are
what I
from
would
around
like
the world,
to
and we
see.
talk a lot about the format and what changes we want to make. And of course, Pauper is one of the smallest formats in Magic.
That's the best
It's the
way
largest
they could do
format in
this.
Magic, so there's going to be some differences there.
Yeah. Assuming it's Gavin.
But I want to create
someone
something
else
along those
that's
lines.
similar. I don't know
to
who
work
that would
with
be,
the community
but
on our decisions. And I expect that anything we want to change will be talked about with that group. Exactly who is on it, exactly how big it is, all that stuff is to be determined. We're in active discussions about that right now. But it will involve reaching out to a lot of people who are very close to the Commander format, including RC members, CAG members, and so on, folks you already know and have identified themselves with the format to be a part of this. So more information on that as it becomes available, but that kind of thing is exactly what we want to be doing here by putting the community still at the center of a lot of what we're doing.
Yeah, part of why this
if they execute it right, that's the best
format
way to
is hard to run and why I
actually,
was not
could actually work.
chomping at the bit to do it. It's unlike every other format we run. We don't get tournament data. We don't get tons of data from Magic Online where we're making the decisions about a card is clearly too good because
how
it's
do you
winning
not get
too
data
much
from
or
Magic
showing
Online?
up too much.
What?
And all of our other formats we manage with a mixture
there
of
is-
data and sentiment. Maybe the format is balanced, but no one likes it.
I won't
We'll
get
make a
asked for it,
change.
I'm
Instead,
sure.
maybe the format is imbalanced. Okay, we'll leave it alone. This one's
I'm
too
critical, I think,
for the most
for
part. Yes, obviously at some point
to be able to do
the
things
data
like
becomes
that.
irrefutable that the card is too good. Well, we can do something about that. But in general, it's more like, are people having fun? Are they adhering to the spirit of what's going on? How do we know this?
But how?
And we play it in-house a lot. Don't expect there'll
How
be
do you enforce
multiple
that?
games
That's
outside
like the
my
challenge
office
of
at
that's the
lunchtime
paradox
today.
of the
But,
Commander, right? Like, how do you actually?
It is such a huge. Disparate
I'm skeptical of
community that
WotC
enjoys
in
different
general
things,
and
we
big
need
corporations in
information
general.
from as
But when
many
it comes to
parts of it
data,
as we can, to know,
I never actually
what we're
take
supposed to
things
do
Wizard
next.
says
So,
about data
yes,
seriously.
Community involvement, a format panel, whatever shape that's going to take.
That is true. Moto, I mean, we
Vital,
switched
vital.
to paper Commander on Commander Clash
I'm gonna
because
be
Moto
a bit
Commander
blunt,
didn't
Aaron,
reflect
because this is a
what most
question
people were
we see
playing.
a lot in a lot of different ways. Is the community, the fans, I'm sure a lot of the people watching right now, they trust Gavin. They like Gavin. It's one of the reasons he's here. But their concern is that the Commander Rules Committee was a group of volunteers. They were literally there for the love of the game. Wizards of the Coast is a business and needs to make money, and they're worried about that profit motive seeping into our decisions. How do you, as a vice president, look at long-term and short-term actions here?
This is a good question.
I am also
I'm glad,
here for the love of
I am
the
glad
game.
Blake asked that.
As are
Also,
to a
I agree,
person,
Aaron's there
everyone
for
on
the
my
love of the
team.
game. And I think
And I'm fortunate to be in a position, where
I
the
think
buck
everyone
kinda
working at
stops with
Wizards is
me.
there for the, probably everyone that's doing
Yes,
design is there for the love of the
Hasbro
game.
wants things. Yes, my boss wants things.
In general, they're taking
those things are pretty
below market wages
fluid,
because
intangible.
they love Magic.
I have a lot of freedom to execute as I see fit for what I think the best thing is for Magic as a whole. I want this.
Okay.
I've said this in many talks, as Gavin mentioned, talks,
Now,
team meetings.
now we know who to.
Our
Yeah,
goal
I
is to
am
make
very
this thing
impressed
last
that Blake
Our
asked
goal is to
this.
grow it. We obviously want as many
I'm
people
surprised
as we
and
can
impressed
play
too.
it. We make a lot of decisions and products to try to increase the reach and the different kinds of ways to engage with the game. But we can't make decisions that turn off the community. We can't make decisions that make people want to leave or quit or whatever. So keeping everyone happy, making the game as fun as possible for as many people as possible is the way we're going to make our money.
Yeah.
And so I think once
I don't know
you
though. Remember the freak
accept
out about
that, our motives should align with
I would
how
say
most people enjoy the game. If it's
look
going to
at
work
like the
properly,
Walking
and
Dead
it
Secret
has,
Lair drop.
for over
there
30
was
years now.
huge negative feedback
that-
from the
that's
community,
gonna
and
be why
Wizards
we
was
make
like,
decisions.
tough.
We want people to keep
We're gonna make
playing. We want
money.
people to enjoy the
so
game.
I don't know if
And if there are things that we have done that make it less enjoyable, we will address them.
I don't know if I fully buy
And
that.
that's how we plan on running.
Just
running
based
the
on
ban
what I've
list
seen
and
with
just how we've run card
the
design
feedback
for all these years.
yeah.
Well, and that's.
I mean, there's
a
examples
good
on the other sides
segue
too.
into
Like they're not doing
talking about the
aftermath
ban
stats
list.
anymore because of the feedback from the community.
We
So I can see
made
examples
the
on both
statement,
sides.
in the article that we do not plan to ban any cards coming up, but we are looking at the list. Can you talk a little bit more about your thoughts and philosophy there?
Yeah, absolutely. So as one of the things
The Commander ban
we're
list does
doing
need
with management of the format
upgraded,
is we're going
for
to reevaluate
sure.
the ban list and look over that and see if there are any changes we want to make.
I hope
we're
they
not
make
going to be banning
several.
any cards as a part of that. Whether or not cards will be getting unbanned is unclear, right? We're still having those discussions. It is all very fresh. But one of the things that is important to me is that the community is a part of that. So I want to wait until the panel, whatever form that takes, is up and running, so we can talk with them about it and figure out what direction.
I guess the other question is going to be, how do they choose people to...
Something that there'll be no doubt a lot of opinions about. And
how are they going to choose people to be on the panel? Who is on the panel is also going to be very
important.
One
thing I do want to stress, though, is we know that Commander is something that moves slowly, right? Commander is something that takes time.
I'm going to have to type out a death threat real quick.
We don't want to be making all kinds of changes all the time to the format, right? We might have this initial evaluation, which will come out at some point in the future. We don't know when that's going to be yet. But honestly, we're not looking at doing tons and tons and tons of check-ins and changes to what's happening with the ban list, because stability is a key part of what makes Commander Commander.
Yeah, and something you said in there made me think of it.
How toxic is the Twitch chat? They are moderating it pretty heavily. It's in slow mode, and I've seen comments being deleted.
Commander to that, or have it
but the stuff that is currently in the chat...
No, we won't be aligning with the normal
actually seems kind of fine.
I highly doubt Commander would want anything that frequent or often.
People
I could imagine a world where we go into quarterly updates, similar to what the Rules Committee has done for years. But all that is still TBD. But the short version is I would not expect constant bans or changes or anything along those lines, because stability is
I would
a
assume
key part
so,
of
but I actually don't know exactly the inner details.
One of the things we did have some new information on was a system that
I'm curious what they say about this, because I
short amount of time.
I'm still
is the
kind of on the fence about this bracket idea.
We have a graphic that our team very quickly put together that we can put up. And Gavin, why don't you talk a little bit about the idea behind the Commander Power Bracket?
Absolutely. Okay, so I'll start with one of the biggest things that Commander faces, especially as you're going out and playing with people outside your playgroup, like at your local game store or Magic Cons, is finding people to play with decks that are in a similar power category to you. And we've been talking a lot about that internally. It's one of the hardest nuts to crack for a Commander. And the Rules Committee's talked about how that's been a challenge for a long time. We've talked been a challenge for a long time.
Is Grave Titan actually
we've only
low
recently
power?
started talking with them about is the idea of the system. So the idea of the Commander Power Bracket system is as follows. We would take a lot of staples for Commander and divvy them up into buckets, 1, 2, 3, and 4. These don't have names right now. This is all very fresh and new. If you have great name suggestions, we are happy to hear them. Maybe numbers is the best, unclear. But one power bracket, one level cards are cards
we need
that
S tier, right?
any deck could very conceivably play.
I love Grave Titan
and are
too.
Often staple-y cards at. We put them in precons all the time. Things like Swords of Plowshares, Grave Titan.
So they're thinking
sort of like
this
precon
is
power level,
precon
roughly,
power
or
level
below
cards.
from there.
So one is
all the way up to
precon or
bracket
worse.
number 4, which are some of the strongest cards you can play
CDH?
in Commander, and mini cards players don't want in their games, right? Like Armageddon is on here as an example. That is a card that is generally not super fun for a lot of people if it shows up in a game, but some people in some tables do enjoy playing.
But what do you think of Vamp
Your deck
Tutor?
is then defined
What do you think of
by
Vamp
the
Tutor?
highest power bracket card that is in that deck. For
see,
example, on this list right here, if my deck contains Adraneth Magistrate, then it is a power bracket 3
That's the part
card,
that I don't
unless
like.
it also contains a
That's the part I'm
power
not
bracket
sold
4 card.
on.
Sure. Now, the system is not perfect.
So
Nothing is
one
ever going to be
card
better than sitting
determines-
down with your table and having a conversation about your game, having a conversation
So
about
that
what kind of
means
game
to
you
be a
wanna play.
1.
Nothing can ever replace that.
Everything needs to
But
be a 1.
what we found with the old power level 1 through 10 system, for example, is people like having something quick, easy to reference. Hey,
I do agree
what
that
number
1
are
to
you?
10
Now,
is
the power
not,
level 1
is
through
not
10 system has a lot of problems.
It's not working.
It's not
like
been
it's just
successful
always
because
7.
of
It's always a
first of all, the
7.
first 5 to 6 numbers don't
Everyone's
really
always
even
a
exist.
7.
Every deck is a 7. There's no
Gavin knows.
things
Gavin
you can
knows.
point to in terms of cards and where they would fall on this scale. And everyone's playgroup is different. So what is a 7 in my playgroup might be quite different from what is a 7 in your playgroup. But having clear benchmark cards, I think, will help those conversations happen. And if your deck is really a 2, but it contains Ancient Tomb, which is a 4 card, that opens that conversation up to the table. So you can talk about it with your group, which is ultimately the best way to find a game that is the right thing. So it's all very fresh. It's all very new. It is not fully fleshed out by any means. But we want to show it as an example of the collaboration we've been doing together and something you can hear more about.
I like the idea. I like the idea of it, right? The idea that we're going to reduce this friction and make it easier for people to find the right match.
I
like
know
what
my
they're
own
trying
journey
to
into
do.
Commander coming, as having been a Pro Tour player or whatever.
I don't know if this
I'm like, oh, they're playing this. They want me to play. I'll build a deck.
They're saying
my
that
deck has Armageddon in it. I Armageddon people. I'm told, like, don't do that. You shouldn't do that. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, I know I'm not supposed to biorhythm people. That's written down here in the list of things I'm not allowed to do. Codifying some of the, like, if you're playing with cards up at this tier, people that are playing with cards down in this tier may not appreciate it, or it does weird things to the game, or is not in the spirit of what's going on. I think writing more of that down will help.
Yeah, it does feel a little Canlander-y.
And several other people that I know,
It's like
they won't
like
step on that land.
Rule Zero mixed with Canlander, right? I think that's
not welcome here.
That's
that wasn't my intent. Like I wasn't trying to be the bully.
I think
but
the idea is Rule Zero mixed with Canlander,
yeah,
basically.
we can avoid some of that.
Yeah.
There are a lot of unwritten rules.
I like the pre-con power level is
There
now
are.
a
I remember
1.
our first Commander game. I think you.
I think Jake
stripped
Pell's below
mine
pre-con
for
level,
some
really rare
so
nowadays.
I feel
I
that.
think pre-cons are
That,
basically
by the way,
the
not the
core.
Android. So yes, finding the right power bracket between us.
Well, and
is good.
I think what's going to be interesting, and we definitely want to hear from the community on where cards go, is I don't know that it's going to be a strictly power level sort of thing. Like, I'll give you an example from a game I played at a Command Fest a while ago, where we sat down at a table.
That makes it so tough, though, right? Because power level's kind of objective.
There are more powerful cards and more powerful accelerators.
This isn't
Pedal. It's
necessarily
it's essentially a treasure.
objective. It's much more subjective.
But a Lotus Petal kind of signals
It
something
raises
about
eyebrows.
your deck. Like, there's, if you play a Lotus Petal, you are dedicated, because that's probably like 5th, 6th, 7th down your list of early accelerators. I think it'll be an interesting conversation about where cards lie versus their sort of objective power level.
Yeah,
I kind of
and
wonder
Lotus Petal is
about
a great example too, because there are plenty of super high power decks that play Lotus Petal. Also, maybe I'm playing my fun little Teshar mono white deck, and I just want to cheap.
I do wonder. I do wonder about like Armageddon and Vampiric Tutor. That's what I keep getting stuck on, is Armageddon and Vampiric Tutor being the same thing, where one
Digging
is just
into that
like
more,
an
I want to
efficient
read
tutor,
a question that came from our
and the
Discord.
other is like one of the saltiest cards in the format.
Is there a
like,
dedicated team that's going to work on the bracket system?
How do you actually do that? Yeah, they still haven't clarified if level 4 is CDH or if this is outside of CDH, and CDH is its own thing.
Very helpful in format longevity and overall structure. What are your plans for developing and constructing this bracket system for the future?
Yeah, well, as I mentioned before, I want to work with a
survey
group on it a great deal. We've been doing some work already with our design team to kind of figure out where we think cards might go. But ultimately, involving the community is going to be a big piece of this. So
community
if you have
group
thoughts,
is great.
please
They
send them my
should
way.
do the community
I'd be happy to hear them on social media.
Do
Discord is a great
the
place for them as
EDH
well.
Rexalt scale. Put all the cards into the same thing. Let the community grade the cards.
Initial structure figured out.
That's the best we can do, right?
Once this community group is up and running, I really want us to all tackle it.
That's got to be the best way.
Ultimately, I don't know how many people are going to be in this group, but
that's got to be the best way we can do it, right? Is let the whole community.
We try and sort
the whole
100
community
Magic
vote
cards
on
into
it.
4 buckets. There's going to be differing opinions there. But getting directionally about right on where we want to go with everything, and then rolling it out, and then even fine-tuning it over time based on your feedback.
So what do you do with
critical? And
what do we do with the rest of the
it's
cards?
It's pretty easy for us to move some.
Well, yeah, not an actual salt scale, but like the way the salt scale. I don't know if you've ever voted in the salt scale. Basically, you can just go to a website and it'll show you a card, and you click from 1 to 5 how you rate it.
Rule 0 is still like
they could do something like that.
The best thing you can do in any game is sit down
to let the community actually give their feedback on what cards should
Rule
be in the
0
bracket.
and pregame conversation.
Like do the same thing and let us vote. Like Vampiric Tutor, is it a 1, 2, 3, or 4? Soul Ring 1, 2, 3, or 4? And they don't have to go exactly with their votes, but use that as part of what makes this new bracket.
Got you to do Rule 0.
Am I going to do a video on this? Maybe.
Shortcut a lot of the.
I know Tomer's working on one, and then this replay will be up on the YouTube. I don't know if I'll go back and do another one breaking down all this or not, but maybe.
And everyone knows what that means. There's not a lot of.
I mean, they definitely pulled out the big guns for this.
I don't know.
Online voting is easily rigged.
I promise I won't infinite combo people.
Yeah, I don't know enough about the.
Yeah.
I don't know about the back end.
So speaking of infinite combos, we saw a lot of this conversation also bracketed around.
Also, is 100
CEDH
cards
or
enough?
Competitive Commander.
Like,
how do you all view?
What do you do with the other
system
29,900 cards, or whatever the exact number is?
Yes. So internally at Wizards, the thing we primarily design for is, what I'll call casual.
What should we name this scale?
more traditional sides of Commander, and that's
so
where
we got the Storm
mostly
scale
be with the bracketing system.
Rabia
But with
scale,
that
whatever
said,
the other one is.
we know there is a CDH audience out there, and I would like to make sure there's at least one person from the CDH community on the new community group that we're forming, make sure that their voice is heard in the room as we're working on all of this. Commander, like I said, the majority of it is kind of social casual. That is what we're focused on here.
So CDH,
but especially as you look at that 4th power level bracket, that's a place we could potentially talk about putting CDH cards to really signal that is where a lot of these cards.
So they're not really thinking of this
Would you ever
as
do
encompassing
2 separate ban lists?
CDH.
No, this thing needs to. This power bracket system needs to do all that work, and maybe level 4 it becomes thought of as that. I don't know. That's
So
where
they don't
want
want
to
to ban. So they're definitely doubling down on not banning.
I do acknowledge
cards.
that this community exists. People
They're definitely
enjoy it.
doubling down on not banning
I want to allow
cards.
for it in whatever system we
And
come
they
up
seem to
with.
be doubling down on
But yeah, I mean, continuing.
not caring.
The bulk
that's
of our
the
work
wrong
and decision
term.
making is going to be about the lower stakes.
Not
We're
really
just here to
caring
have
about
a good
CDH.
time.
That's still probably the
Do
wrong
crazy
term, but
things,
but you know what I
Commander-style
mean.
gameplay.
Like CDH is not a priority.
but
Casual is still the
much
focus.
like
That's
we
what I was
do
trying to
for
say.
Every kind of magic,
Aaron,
we
yeah,
want people to be able
he's
to push
kinda doing
things to
the
the highest level. That's why we have pro
technology
tours
thing a little bit.
and whatnot. And at the same time, still allow
Sigh,
for fun
technology.
at-home experiences. So
Do
we
they have
think
the
we can
technology to do it?
thread
We
the
need
needle
that guy.
to do this
We need
right.
that guy from the
I
finance
think that
stream
Vampiric Tutor
to let us know
Armageddon,
if they
which
have
are
the
two cards
technology
on the
to
screen a
actually
moment ago,
do
listed
this
under
bracket.
4 kind of show different dichotomies.
Do
there.
they have the
Vampiric Tutor is a
technology?
card
That's
that
a
is,
real
of course, heavily
question.
CDH played. It's heavily played in high-powered commander decks. You see it all the time.
Yep.
And that would certainly belong on that list. Armageddon is a card that is not really played as much or comparatively in something like CDH.
So do you think?
But it's still just a
what do you
card
think of
really
this
wanna opt
bracket?
into. That is
Yeah.
What do you think of this bracket description? Do you think that'll work? So here's what I heard from this so far: is essentially, we don't want to ban many cards. We don't really want to. We might be unbanning cards. We're not planning on banning more cards. Instead, this bracket is supposed to do the work of getting people into the right matches. Do you think it can work?
fresh. It's all new. We're still working on it and defining it. We welcome your feedback, and we'll be working with a lot of people to try and get this right.
I am going to take a break from our
I
questions
feel like
that
it's
we
one of
had
those things that
down
like
because chat
looks
has
good
a
on
lot of good
paper.
questions about
In practice, people might kind of do the
bracket
same
system,
thing
and
that
so
they
I wanna
do
pause
now.
here and answer some of those. So Kalaji
Would
writes, I feel like the 1-4 system will limit the reprints in future Commander products. How,
Interesting.
Aaron, you kind of talked about thinking of the bracket system in terms of precons. How are you?
So
obviously it's not set right
The
now,
thinking
but
of
how
the
are you
question,
thinking
I guess,
about
is if something's a
precons and, the
4,
bucket?
it's like pseudo ban, so they're less likely to
That's a good
reprint it because they
question.
can't put it in a precon.
I can't
If
say
it's a
I've thought
2,
a
it
ton
can go
about
in a
it, because,
precon. If it's a
again,
3, it
we're
can
2
go.
days into
That's
living
actually an
in this
interesting
universe.
point. That actually is. I hadn't thought about that either, but that is a really good point.
I'm pretty sure that whatever ends up in
Like, if
the
precons are a
4th
1.
band is things that we would not be putting in precons. The Armageddons of the world.
Yeah, what about 3s though, or 2s?
Even the Vampiric Tutors.
Like, yeah, you're probably not putting the 4s in a
we
precon
try to
anyway.
limit
But what
tutors in
about
our precons
2s?
generally.
What about Dockside? What about Teferi's Protection?
But that
Those
does
are
make me
probably
wonder,
3s
if
or
we put a
4s
3
that
in a
were came
precon,
from precons.
Does that make that precon a 3? Is a single card sufficient to
That's how you're.
identify
You
what
said
a
it was
power level
sufficient.
is?
That's
Those
that's
are,
what you
maybe
said.
we need a little
That
bit
was
more
your whole
robustness
system.
as part of that system as well. So
Yeah, exactly. Yes,
we will have
that
to
one
put this all through our
card.
paces.
That's
So this is pretty hot off the presses.
Yep.
that's kind of the issue,
And
right?
as soon
One
as you start
card.
poking holes in it. There's
As soon as
like,
you bring
oh,
up
yeah,
the one
that's a good
card
thought.
thing, it all
We
falls
need to
apart.
reevaluate that, and that's exactly what
I
it
think
is.
that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Related.
That is the problem.
As we
I
continue
think
to
what
poke holes in this.
what you really
Soul Ring.
want.
So Soul
Yeah.
Ring was obviously a big part of the conversation.
Like,
and
how do you
its
do
power
Soul Ring?
level, but
It's in every
ubiquity in the
precon.
format.
It's a 4.
Obviously, we don't have it figured out, but how do you two think about Soul Ring?
Yeah, when it comes to Soul Ring is the iconic commander card. It has been in every precon we have made. There are so many awesome
So
versions
it's a
of it
one?
out there. People identify it with the format. It is the loading screen for this very weekly MTG was Soul Ring.
Yeah.
Soul Ring is not
Yes.
going anywhere. I would expect Soul Ring to be kind of, almost, if I can even use it, bracket 0, if that makes sense. It is just like such a foundational thing that everyone knows and loves. Yes, it is very powerful. It would, if it were any other card, show up in a higher tier. But every commander deck can have a Soul Ring because that is part of the structure that's been created for this
What do
format.
you-
And I think a thing that's
What do
really
you all?
been,
Yeah,
unified
we've
the
created a
community,
new
we wanna
bracket.
carry
A new
forward.
bracket has been created live on stream.
Soul Ring, yes, I expect that to
Yep.
show up.
It will be in bucket 1. I mean, if we put it in every precon. We assume everyone's going to play it. I made peace with Soul Ring years ago.
But then, like,
I get it.
isn't-
It's part of this format, and that's fine.
But then shouldn't Mana
And
Crypt
fun
be a
in many
1?
cases.
But it'll be a 4.
Like Polluted Delta is one of the most powerful Magic cards ever printed. It'll
yeah,
be in
but there's
bucket
not
1
a
as well.
direct
So it's not
comparison
just
like
gonna
Mana
be a
Crypt,
raw
Aaron.
power.
Like, the problem with Soul Ring is it has such
indicator.
direct
We're not
comparisons to
bucketing
Mana
cards
Crypts
just
and
on,
other
like,
similar
how
fast mana
powerful of a
cards. It's
Magic
very
card
easy
is
to
this
be
in a
like, oh, it's
vacuum?
very much like
What
this.
does this do to the format? What message do we want to send? How do we want to help people find games that that feel appropriate to one another. And saying Soul Ring is anything other.
New boss, same as old. When it comes to Soul Ring, RC Wizards, the answer is the same. It's iconic. It's going to stay.
One of the goals is to get you into games with people with similarly powered decks.
It is. It is the mascot
Soul
of
Ring
the
is
format.
Essentially every commander deck.
Yeah.
And so having it be at the lowest level is kind of an indicator of what kind of game you're expecting to play. If we put it in 4 and every deck was suddenly would be in that bracket, it's not really what we're intending to do here.
See, that
Right. So if there's folks out there assuming the first thing we're going to do is ban Soul Ring, bad news.
I mean, they're not going to ban Soul Ring, but
One
what bracket do you put it in is a legit question.
Idea, that I've seen
I think
a
what they
lot that I'd
really
love
need to
talk
do
about is one that I actually sort of championed internally just because I'm a Canadian Highlander fan, and I have to get at least one mention in every show, but is a generalized point system. So I'll be the Canlander expert for a moment. For those who don't know, Canlander
What do you
works
think of the
on
point
a
system?
10-point scale. You have 10 points to put in your deck. Most cards are worth 0 points, and then the highest.
Like, what do you think
powered
of an
cards are worth
actual
anywhere
system like
from
this?
1 to, I think, 8 points is the highest. But you can only have 10 total points in
Do you
your
think
deck.
that would make
Have you all thought
deck
at all
building more
about
fun
the
or
point
less
system?
fun for you?
Yeah, we've talked about it when we were exploring
Yeah,
systems.
Nadu is scary, isn't it, Will Harold? Like, I share that
like
concern.
Highlander, and
Minis games use those.
yes, all kinds of places in gaming have used them as well.
Yeah.
Points is a very
I wanna see if they
nuanced
bring
thing,
up it being
and
too
it's very hard when you
complicated.
get into places that are not competitive formats.
Yeah,
So
that's
Canadian
kind
Highlander
of my
mostly played
concern.
competitively. Many of these games that have point systems play competitively. Commander is more like what kind of play experience do you want? And if we give people a point structure, there'll be so much min-maxing on like, oh, well, I'll spend my points on this thing to get this wild combo in my deck or what have you.
I think,
and then it also
I think
has so
their
much
bracket
gradation
system
to
has
it
that same issue.
of like, oh, I'm a
potentially.
25-point deck. Well, you're a 35-point deck. You're a
That
60-point deck.
it has
What
the
does that
same-
actually mean for us as we're trying to play a game?
I
It's
feel
not
like it has
particularly
the-
helpful in telling what kind of play
but
experience you have.
doesn't-
Because maybe my 25 points are all from things that are 1 point, and your 25
Doesn't
points
the
are from
bracket
3
have the
incredibly
same
powerful
issue?
cards that are
Does it?
whatever, 10 or so points apiece.
Doesn't the bracket system have the same issue where it incentivizes min-maxing? Like, you look at your deck list and you're like, how can I make this the strongest one possible? What's the top 10 1 cards that I can squeeze into my deck and make the strongest version of a 1 power deck possible? I feel like the min-maxing issue will also be somewhat present with the bracket system. I agree it's an issue with the Canlander system. If you're trying to play it casually, Canlander doesn't matter
On
because
their
it's a
own,
competitive
they're
format.
not
But I do
super
worry that the
powerful,
min-maxing
but with another card
would be
win the
encouraged
game
by...
immediately or
Why are
pretty
there...
close to
Did
it.
I do
So
this? Why
how
are
you
there
thinking
hearts?
about combos
Did I
in
click
this
something?
bracket system?
Yeah,
Did they
I
do
think
this?
we've only started talking
Wait,
about
did
this
they just-
recently, but I think combos very much
Did they-
deserve space
did they just
together
put hearts
on
up,
this.
purple hearts on
I'll
the
use
screen?
one that is very classic,
Wait,
very well known.
did you see that? Am I going crazy?
Or
Was there
Take It Back,
just
or any number of cards.
a whole bunch of purple hearts?
In isolation, those cards are not necessarily a problem on their own, but together they would certainly be a 4 under this system.
Oh, it's from
a
their
2-card
chat,
combo
okay.
that's very
I got their
cheap
chat
that wins you
closed.
the game. That is a thing
That
many
makes
players
more
generally do not
sense.
want to play with in their commander experiences, but some do. It's important we give a place for that to live. And I think identifying some of those and
Hot
putting
take.
them
People
on
are
that list
always
somewhere
seeking
is
to
going
min-max
be
anything
Now,
in
obviously,
MTG.
there are tons
It is
and
a
tons
pretty
and tons of
normal
combos
way
in
to play Magic,
Not
right?
every
Like,
single
where
combo
you're just
possible
so
will be on
used
the
to
stacking system,
min-maxing.
But some of the more iconic ones, I imagine, will make it on.
Another, in that same space about fine-tuning this bracket idea, has Brawl on Arena provided you all with any ideas on power level?
Please say no, please say no.
Yeah,
please
so
say
one
no.
thing that Brawl
Yes.
does on Arena is it kind of buckets your deck into 4 different categories, which is actually
Not very well.
we worked on the brackets before I learned this,
Not
by the
very
way,
well.
but it's a very fun thing to learn. And it seems to be working decently well for them, where it pairs you against people when you're playing Brawl that have similar,
I don't know if Brawl
similar
players
benchmark cards.
believe that it works.
I think there's a lot we can learn
reasonably
from that.
well.
Obviously, those discussions are fresh and ongoing, but
No.
that's
Oh,
a
no.
cool thing to learn. They have
Oh,
systems
no.
that
Are
are
they gonna
similar and
turn
has worked pretty
Commander
well
into
for getting
Brawl?
well match-made games there. Of course, Brawl on Arena is a
Wait.
one-on-one.
Yeah.
It is. I'm not going to call it competitive, but it is trying to defeat the other person as quickly as possible. So there are other nuances there. But it is.
Can I find this? Where is this? Let's see. This was 4 months ago. Where do I?
Have these bannings?
So just
in
so
this
you know,
discussion given you
just so
anything
you
to think
know,
about on the design side?
this was.
Yes,
oh,
certainly.
they're asking,
We've
are you going to
talked a
stop
lot
printing the
about
busted
this, not
cards?
just now, but of the power level of these cards over the past few years. For
So
example,
this
I would
is-
say that
this
Jewel
is when the
Lotus
Brawl
was
scale-
a mistake.
Hey,
like
thank
Arcane
you,
Signet,
Gavin.
or
Yes, it
Smothering
was.
Tithe, or cards in that vein. These are cards that
Arcane Signet,
we
Smothering
would not
Tithe.
make with the heuristics we have today, knowing what we know about Commander.
Ooh,
And
Arcane Signet
in the
called
past
out,
couple
too.
of years,
They would not make Arcane Signet, Smothering Tithe, or Jewel
about
Lotus.
the kind of shape we've been taking with things.
I agree. I 100%
The big
agree
philosophy
with
that
that.
I've been really espousing to the team on the Commander side is one of the
I do
biggest
love
dangers
Gavin.
to Commander as
Gavin,
a format
I love
is
Gavin.
ubiquity.
Yeah.
Look, you got to build a Commander deck.
You are right.
Okay, you're going to start with your
Yes.
Commander and Soul Ring. Of course, you have 98 cards left to build.
But now you got
Okay,
Arcane
but then we
Signet,
make Command
97.
Tower. Well,
Then
now
you
your
have,
Commander deck's going to start with your
96,
Commander
Command Tower,
and Soul Ring and
96.
Command Tower. You have 97 cards left to build.
And then
now we
Smothering
made Arcane
Tithe,
Signet. Well, your deck
and then
starts
the
with
One
Command
Ring,
Tower, your Commander, Arcane
and then the
Signet,
Jewel
Soul Ring. Now
Lotus,
you have 96
and
cards
then-
left to build.
and
And
then
you
you're down to
imagine a
50
future where this
cards.
goes on,
100%
and suddenly
right,
there's
100%.
10 cards you have to put in every Commander deck.
Gavin gets it.
15
Gavin
cards
gets
you have to
it.
put in every Commander deck. It's a huge problem.
Yeah.
Gavin
Because
gets
what
it.
makes Commander so great,
He
what
really
makes it so
does.
great, is that your deck is your way of expressing yourself and building something that is unique to you and feels special. And the more we degrade into that,
I think
the
a point
more
system would
trouble it
work.
causes.
If you didn't put a cap on
So
the deck, for
design side,
example,
we're
I
trying
can have
to
a
do
weak
lot
deck
of
that's 100 and then a
making
strong
cards that
deck
are good
that's
in
400.
specific archetypes, really good in certain strategies, and precons that point you in that direction, but not these cards that will show up in every single Commander deck that should be in their colors.
They just need to clone Gavin.
I'm not to say we're perfect, certainly, but we really want to try and push back against that as much as possible and have a ton of reviews going on
Gavin's saying the
internally
right stuff.
to try and make
I
sure
will
that does not happen.
So what was the last...
So yeah, when it comes to a card, the cards that were banned on Monday, for example, those are cards that we are trying not to make, like Dockside Extortionist, Jeweled Lotus. Those are cards that we would not want to make today by today's standards.
So what was the
they kind of
last
break
real
some of the
mistake
cardinal
like that?
sort of Commander design rules on the.
Because I feel like they... Yes, I know it's true.
Yeah,
Will
Nadu, which
Hasbro
you
let
did bring
them?
up,
That's a
is
real
certainly not
question.
does
But
not
like, I
embody
feel
any
like they've
design
done much
philosophy.
better in
That
the last few
was just
years,
an
right?
oversight, and we've said that in writing before, so I don't want people to throw that one up as like, no, you did this. That's never that was never the intent there.
Yeah, Nadu
But
was a
we
mistake,
can't unprint
yes.
cards. You know,
Yeah.
once they're made, they're made. The funny thing about design mistakes,
But you can
is
ban cards, Aaron.
that they go on to sometimes be the
You
most
can ban
popular
them.
cards in the game.
You can
like
ban
cubes
them.
and legacy decks are just like piles of design mistakes in many ways. They're just
Trouble
all
in
of the most
pairs.
egregious
So
things
One
we've
Ring
ever
was a
done.
mistake.
And then it's up to us to figure out.
One
well,
Ring
we
was
can
a
say,
mistake.
yep,
but
that
it
one
was
wasn't great,
also
but
push
people
for
seem to be
modern.
enjoying it. We'll reprint it a few times.
Nadu
We'll put
was
in
a
some other
mistake
product,
if
put in
it's
a
own
whatever.
level.
And that
Trouble
helps
in
as part
Pairs
of
is
the
a good
fabric of
one.
the format, or
Polywog Prodigy. Is
Nadu
Polywog
is an
Prodigy a
example of,
mistake
like,
card?
This one's
I haven't
not
played
going
with
well.
it that much.
This is not adding to the fun of the format.
But I feel like they have like
We need to do something about
improved.
this
If you look
and
back
ban
at
it,
like
and those conversations are
2019 to
often
2021,
very hard, you know?
like the era
because there are
of
people that will
Jewel
defend every
Lotus,
single card out
Arcane
there. Like,
Signet,
no, it's
Fierce
actually fun to
Guardianship
strip mine
Cycle.
reasonable people.
That
Learn
was
to build a
like
better deck.
that was
you know,
the
if you don't want to get
peak
stripped
of
mine,
bad
whatever.
design, or
You can
like
take
fire
every one of these
design, push
arguments
design.
in either direction, and finding that fine line. That's where we need the input.
Shalakito, welcome to the
and
Fishbowl.
that's
Thank
gonna
you
be
for
the
your
hard work
subscription. Big
over
super,
time.
thank you.
All right, we are almost to the end of our list of prepared questions. So if you do have a question that has not been answered yet, or that you'd like us to dig deeper into, please do put it into chat. Again, tagging @Magic helps the people on my team.
Any questions,
find
chat?
those questions.
Do you want me to put any questions in there? What do you got? What do you got, chat? Is there anything we should be asking them?
I've got three more questions. Quickly, they're relatively short.
Yeah, I know, but
that I'm going to ask
what is
here,
the-
and then
what
we're
is the
going to get
question?
to live questions. So if your question has not been answered, feel free to put
Will
it in.
commanders
and we'll get to them.
themselves be considered in brackets?
This next question, I'm actually going to take this one.
I hope not.
We've seen a lot of questions about digital integration and like, can we have tools for this? And obviously, again, very
That's-
fresh. But
I feel like that's
when
the way to
this
do
came
it.
up, my team already started talking about this. So one of my teams is the
I-
web team that manages, among other things, our format pages. And we had already been talking about
Oh, God.
we need to
Oh, no, Blake's
refresh
in
our
charge of the
format
website, too?
pages. And so
I didn't know that.
when this bracket idea came up, the team immediately was like, wow, it'd be really cool if we had a tool on our commander page that was like, put your deck list here and we'll tell you what number it falls into. So yes, that is something we've already started discussing now.
I think what they need to do is they need to have it like that, where you can put in your deck list on Charizard. I think they need a tool like that where you put in the deck list, but I don't think you want it graded by the single highest ranked cards. I think you want it graded by like an average of the cards, right? Like if you have 3 4s and 10 3s and 42s, you'd be like a mid 2 or whatever. Like I think maybe that would be better.
Discussion and figuring out the details around that is still going to be important. It is, I'll be candid, it is not as important as a lot of the other stuff we're trying to figure out right now involving how this is all going to move going forward. But at some point in the future, I do think it's a thing we'll resume and take a look at. I think it's a great project to work on with the community group as well. I know that many people on the,
who would you nominate, Chad?
IC and CAG currently have been working on this, and we can hopefully take the seeds that
Who would you nominate for the community group? Who do you really want to see in the community group? You can pick a person that gets into this community group that's actually going to have a voice, presumably with Gavin, to actually have an influence on the Commander format. Prop's a good choice. Skrillex, Rachel's actually Rachel's a really good choice too. The Ghost of Sheldon Memory. Prof, me, Tomer, P. Diddy. I mean, I would think like Command Zone crew would make sense. Like someone from the Command Zone. Wubby's it would be interesting to have someone who's less enfranchised. Or CGB could be a good one. It would be interesting to have someone who is less enfranchised. I would actually really like to see the perspective of someone like Wubby, who I think is newish to the format. Like someone like that I think would actually have a very interesting voice. Rarin, yeah, someone like that that's like just newish to the format but knows card games. I think someone like that could actually be an interesting addition because they can kind of provide like the perspective that someone like the Command Zone crew that's been doing this forever isn't going to have because we're so enfranchised in the format. If you watch like the Command Zone video where they were talking about the bannings, they spent a lot of time talking about like how does this impact Post Malone? How will this impact whatever, like their play group of people they've been playing with forever, and like those people really like Post Malone really likes Mana Crypt, so I feel bad for them, which is a real perspective that matters. But there's also like this very less enfranchised perspective that I would really like to see get into this group. That wouldn't be me, wouldn't be Command Zone, wouldn't be anyone who's like been doing Magic content for the last 10 years or something. Yeah. Well, not so I don't want someone who's like clueless, but I think there's people who like can offer perspective of someone who knows games and knows TCGs, but maybe has like only been playing Commander for a year or two rather than playing Commander since 2008 or whatever. Like someone who I started playing Commander, in Throne of Eldraine, or I started playing Commander, something like that. I think could be a good perspective.
Okay, with our last 20 minutes, I'm just going to start running through questions.
All right, let's see if we get any good questions
these are not
here.
Questions we prepared for, so the answer to a lot of them. Maybe.
I would say Comedian would be a good one. I would say if I'm doing this, they need to have an LGS, some sort of LGS representative would be very helpful. I would be totally down with P. Sully. One of the best person as far as Magic takes in the whole community. Someone from the CDH community, comedian, Play to Win, Lua, someone like that. Like someone from CDH, someone from like the LGS. And I don't want to see. I know they can get like Star City Games or Card Kingdom. Like I would rather see someone that's more on the like lower down level, like a smaller LGS, and not like the huge national store level. Someone like that could be good. As someone from SCG could be good as well to have the big perspective. But like CDH person, conflict of interest, is it? Yeah, I guess it is. I guess it could be a conflict of interest if their decisions are based on like how they're going to make the most money. What do you use? Why do you use Chase cards to sell collector boosters? Cash
will
grab,
this new community-focused panel help guide
how do we know this won't happen in the future?
Yeah, and I mentioned this earlier,
the answer to that is
really
they
important
basically
to me
just
that
said they're
we
not
have
banning
at least one person
cards
who knows the
of
format
Annex.
and
So I
speak
think
to
they
that on
kind
there,
of
be a
answered
voice
that
for
one.
that community.
That's a
the
good.
focus
I
of
like
Commander
that.
from a design perspective is the kind of more traditional casual social Commander. But I don't want to downplay the fact that CDH is a community that has a very excited audience and a lot of people very active in the game who are passionate about it, and make sure they have a seat at the table is critical.
Yep. Right. Designing cards and products, we're aiming at the middle, but rules and floor rules and ban lists have to account for
Alex
the
Bertini.
So absolutely, I think it'd be great to hear from those folks on these matters.
Cool. All right, from 2023 Mod 3UZ, the old RC was very American-based. How will you work on making it less so, and how will you ensure that Europe, Asia, and so on get a voice as well?
So when I was helping put together the Popper format panel, something that was really critical to me is that we got a widespread from across many different areas. It's too early to tell what it's going to look like and what the exact mix is going to look like here for this new community focus panel. But making sure we have
that's always a tough
spread of people that can provide feedback, I think is critical to making sure that it all runs smoothly, because we want to be able to hear from many different regions as to what is happening in their area, right?
Yeah, that's something we hadn't really talked about, but having,
like
that's kind of complicates it, right? Like, it's EDH cards, commander cards are like super cheap in Japan because no one ever gets to play, they just don't really play commander there. They play standard and modern and pioneer. So I think it might depend a little bit on the region, but I think that's a good point that the last version was very US centric, really. And we could definitely get a broader cross section there.
But we could potentially talk about doing more.
Yeah, South America,
and see how it all turns out. But this is pretty fresh and new. So as we begin doing the exercise, if it feels like we need a fifth one, we can.
Honestly,
I'll say personally, for me, I often enjoy scales that don't have a midpoint because it forces you to kind of pick a side on where you want to fall. But that is.
Yeah. If you ever make it to Japan, pick up your commander cards. Pick up your commander cards while you're over there.
To print how-to guides explaining the bracket system in products like Precons.
I feel like they're getting a little bit far ahead of themselves on this bracket thing. Like, I feel like this bracket thing's a little overblown right now. I feel like in the last short period of time, this idea kind of came up, and then it kind of went public because of WotC taking over the RC. Like, I feel like this is all very premature. So I think getting like too concerned about the details, maybe I'm even doing that a little bit, where I'm like, I really don't like your one top card determining your grade. I think average would be better. But stuff like that, it probably isn't worth getting fixated on at this point, because I feel like it's so early in the planning that it doesn't really matter.
It's, it will take some time to get there, right? Mm-hmm. First you want to flesh this out, figure out how it looks, put it through its paces, make sure it is actually accomplishing its goals, and then at that point, I think, putting it.
The bracket has been mentioned at the banning, so they had been working on this for a bit. Right. Yeah, they kind of said earlier in the stream that they've been working on it
safety
for
concerns
a few weeks.
Recent
but it still sounds like
would
it's
we
early. I imagine so. Like
commander advisory committee or whatever we had
the
calling
RC
it.
mentioned
Would we make them anonymous? Would we make
back when they banned the cards that they were working on a tool with Wizards, which I presume is this tool.
Is important,
but I think this is still like early stages of it, not the finished product. I don't think it was ready to be released publicly, but it came out a little early because of all the shakeup.
Whether or not they all have to be public facing, exactly the framework that takes is still something we're talking about. And I will call out that with this group, this is one of the many ways we'll take feedback in, but if someone is not on this group, it doesn't mean we're going to ignore what they have to say or not talk with them, right? There's a lot of folks in the community that I reach out to, that the RC has reached out to in the past to talk about all kinds of things who are not on the CAG or involved in that circle. So we will be interfacing tons with the community in all
the
kinds
bracket
of
things
fashions.
definitely in the future a little ways.
So like I said, exactly the shape is still ongoing.
Yeah, I think it's good for us if there are people on this committee that are very public about it and saying, hey, I'm on this committee. If you have an axe to grind, come to my Discord or hit me up on social media, because we want them to be synthesizing, information from the community as a whole, and if they're not in a position to actively solicit it, then
is there any concern we're creating the CAG 2.0?
But yeah, I could easily see us making allowances for like, okay, we're gonna say there's 3 other people.
I would say if
aren't willing to go public with their identities or whatever, or their information, totally get it. There's still probably a lot of good for us there, and it is
I don't know how I feel about that.
No means our intent to ever, expose anyone to anything harmful.
I don't know how I feel. I don't know how I feel about unnamed people being part of the panel. I get what they're going for is like people might be concerned about the harassment or whatever, but it kind of sounded like they were maybe rebuilding the CAG in some ways. The only reason I'm not super concerned about it is like Gavin. Like, I feel like Gavin is just so good at what he does. If Gavin's in charge of it, it'll be fine. But the idea that like we're gonna get all these community members and if you have feedback about what we're doing, go to them and tell them. That sounds like what we just went through, right? Wasn't that just like an extreme version of that got way too out of hand, where the powers that be, in this case the RC, which will be Wizards in the future, like made a decision that people didn't like, and the end result was people on the CAG getting feedback from the community, some of it that went way too far and ended up devolving into horrible things that no one should have to deal with, like death threats and harassment. But I feel like maybe you're building that same system again. Maybe there's no way around it and it's just inevitable, but I think that would be a concern, that you're kind of just building that same system that just led to all the problems.
Talk about why they're there and what that means, right? The fact that this card sits here,
three Hasbro's X and
might
trench
be like,
coats.
we're not looking to have stuff at about this this range here. For example, tutors, we saw Vampire Tutor on the screen earlier. Instant speed efficient tutors that are at that level will likely end up in bracket 4 for the most part, right? 1 mana tutors, I would expect that Vampire Tutor and probably Enlightened and Mystical are likely candidates for 4.
The funny thing is,
break down tutors in a similar fashion.
Demonic Tutor is just better than those, right? Isn't Demonic Tutor better than
Aaron,
Vampire
when
Tutor?
You think about the brackets.
Maybe it'll be a 4 as well.
Being strictly lists
I'm
of
pretty
cards
sure
or sort of philosophical
Tutor-
definitions of what play looks like there.
Philosophical definitions of what play looks.
I don't think in the middle and at the bottom
they-
we can make lists.
Are they talking about
You
like
have to
the
account
like
for
the
every single
Moto
card
the
in
Moto
your
game?
or
No counters.
Every single card.
No counters, no discard, no stacks.
The top,
No Atraxa.
I am more hopeful that we can be a little more concrete about. Even that might require some finesse, and is this card really that bad?
I
Especially
always
when we
would
get into
rather have
combos,
Demonic
like
Tutor, I
Staff of
think.
Domination really a 4? Depends. Do you have
Like I guess specifically on turn 1, Mam
Karametra's
Tutor's
Acolyte in
better.
your deck or whatever? Pick whatever ways you plan on.
But in
using
pretty
that
much
card,
every
because
other point in the game,
itself,
Demonic Tutor's better.
Play 5 and tap and draw a card or whatever it is. Who cares? But there are insidious things afoot a lot of the times with some of those cards, and we will not be able to capture the ball to the point about combos. We cannot. I don't think we should be putting cards in brackets based on their worst case scenario necessarily all the time, especially when they have fair uses that people enjoy.
If anything, I come away from this feeling like
I don't expect the middle to be much more
this
than
is just an
guidance,
impossible task.
And talking
like
about the
maybe
experience
all
these
this
cards
is for
generate and the
nothing
speed and whatnot.
because it's just
The
not
top,
actually possible.
I would like to try to be
like that's
pretty clear, and the more clear we can be there, the better. But we'll see how that goes. Again, I don't want it to be 900 cards long or whatever. I think then it will become.
They definitely
less,
have said
more
they're not doing all the
bureaucratic than
cards.
fun and not be that useful. So we'll see.
And once again, it is all directional, right? That communication with your table. Staff of Domination is a great example. If you're like, I have Staff of Domination and this other card that could theoretically go infinite in my deck, that's a great conversation to have when you sit down about what the kind of play experience you might expect.
Yep. For those who
every deck's a 3. Three's the new 7.
I always forget what it's called. Pauper Advisory Group a number of times. For those who don't know, how does that group work?
Yeah, so the Pauper Format panel is a group of folks I work with on the Pauper format. And the way that group is set up,
I mean, I do really like that they're modeling it after the Pauper
There'll
thing.
be a lot of reasons
That
why I wanna
is,
take
I
this a
think, the
little
right
bit
direction to go.
But the way it's set up is all of us talk throughout the week, basically every week, about what's happening in the format.
I do feel there's maybe, like, that's one thing I've learned in this, and I've learned this about myself, too, because I have always had strong opinions that we need more bannings in Commander. We need better managed format. We need more activity out of the leadership of the format. But after how all of this has went down, I think I have somewhat changed my opinion to Commander is unmanageable. That, like, yes, all of these ideas I do think would make the game better, but there's so many different kinds of people playing Commander with so many different desires, at so many different power levels, in so many different ways, that there is literally just no way to make a ban list or a bracket or any of that stuff that is going to make everyone happy. There's just, it's impossible. It is I think, an unmanageable format. Like, I think if there's one takeaway from the past week for me, it's kind of that. Like, it's just, there's no way to do it that's going to work for everyone.
With Commander, I would expect something similar in the amount of communication we want to do with you all. Because especially as a community format, having that
I think the difference for me is I thought it was worth it, but with how harsh this reaction has been to what I think was a positive change to the format, I'm not even sure it's worth trying. Like, I'm not even sure it's worth trying to do it. Even though I think Commander is better with Mana Crypt banned, maybe you just can't even do anything like that. Where does that leave us long term? I don't know. Like, I don't like the idea of just, like, managing the format by trust me, bro, I guess, or like trusting everyone's gonna do the right. It's just such a weird way to run a format, but maybe there's no other option.
There's an admission that like the problem is just so enormous. Like, no number of employees spending their time engaging with the format is going to get us a read on how the rest of the world is engaging with it. So we need more.
I think that's an argument for spreading the tentacles very wide with this group.
You mentioned
like not just
feedback,
as far as
so
like
there will be people who
CDH
are
and vendors in different countries, but just like
but
more
if you're
voices,
out in the world,
because
what are the
so many
best
people playing.
ways to provide
I feel like that's
well, Discord. We have a new Discord set up.
Maybe one of the
There's already been a lot of
issues with
Gavin, so that's wonderful for this. If you want to tweet at me or X at me.
I feel like maybe that's one of the issues with the past RC
online,
is it was so
insular.
insular,
And also,
you
I
had
just
a
frankly
group
read
that
a
kind
lot.
of played
Reddit is one of the most visited
together a
websites on my
lot
phone.
and similarly a
Reddit,
lot, and it was all like
social
the
media, articles
the
go
old
up,
guard or
those,
content
so whatever
creator
way you have to
class
communicate with us, whether it's, and I'm sure
that
I will
you
be
have
reading
this
Discord some. I
insular
know it's moving very
view,
fast right now, so I
echo
can't
chamber
process
of
all
the
of it.
format, and
But
maybe
I'm
not
sure
a
Blake and
broad
Steve will be
enough
sending
view
over
for
a lot
what the
of
whole player
top,
base
most
is
popular questions and
experiencing.
notes. So we'll be synthesizing all of this in the days and weeks to come. And to me, part of the great thing about having the community group too is it's not just me doing it, or the design team doing it.
Earlier
You'll all be
they
hearing
were
from
asked
the
about
community
if they were
together,
going to
right?
have people
And I
outside
see this
of
all
the
time
US
where
because the
different
last
people hear
RC was
different
so
things and read
US
different articles
focused.
and we can share with it.
And they
Share
mentioned
about it. One of the great things about the Popper group
hopefully,
is people will share, oh, did you
basically.
see this article that came out this week or this tweet thread? And often I'll have missed it because I was busy that day or what have you. And all being able to see it and talk about it is great. And I think the community group being
I think we're
someone
getting-
to pick up on all the different
I think we're getting near
threads
the
that are out
end.
there in the world will be really, really wonderful for this too.
Speaking of which, we are nearly out of time. I will plug the Discord. It's the official Magic Discord.
Are you
there's
in
a
the
link
Discord?
to it in the article from yesterday.
I don't think I'm in the official
Not only
Magic
is there
Discord,
a
but maybe I
main
should be.
channel to talk about the Commander announcement, but the team broke it up into a bunch of sub-channels. So if you particularly want to talk about the brackets, if you particularly want to talk about the bans,
I might
if you
have to
want
get in the
talk
Discord
about,
to try to
any
leave
number
some
of topics.
feedback.
There are sub-threads for those, and they're all very active right now. So I definitely recommend checking those out. There are definitely more great questions in chat that we did not get to. Share them in all the ways that Gavin talked. Head to Discord, share them with him. You can share them with me. I'll make sure they get to the right place. Aaron is pretty active on Twitter as well.
That looks like the stream.
And so.
So what do we think? What do we think? Let's play one more game and then we'll go over the rest of the ban list. So what is your takeaway from that, chat? We just watched the stream. So TLDR, Wizards is in charge now. They're looking at running it, it sounds like, similarly to Pauper. Were they clear on Gavin being in charge of that? Or were they using Gavin as an example? I wasn't actually clear on that. If it's Gavin that's running Commander, I feel way more comfortable than someone else running Commander but trying to do it like Gavin, if that makes sense. I think overall they said a lot of the right things. I was impressed that they actually asked some of the tough finance questions as far as the community's concerns about Wizards being in charge, being a negative as far as reprints or being too money driven. I don't know if the answer was like super convincing, but I'm glad that they at least brought it up and they didn't just shy away from that. I think that was smart to actually bring that up. I would say I feel somewhat better after that stream about Wizards being in charge. I can't believe I'm saying that, but I feel somewhat better after watching that stream than I did before watching that stream. I think it honestly went about as good as it could have went for Wizards. It was like, yeah, it was good communication. They were pretty upfront with that communication. Yeah, the goldfish mascot, his name Scoops. I wish they had addressed the fact that people are mostly mad because of the price of cards, but I guess I can't acknowledge the secondary market. Yeah, that is kind of a concern. Hey, what's up, Zavo Shadow? Good to see ya. Welcome to the stream. Thanks for the kind words. It is going to be interesting. I'm still not sold on the bracket thing. I have it in the back of my head that none of it's actually going to matter. That in the end, we're going to talk about brackets. They probably publish a bracket. Will people actually use the bracket is the big question. It's obviously, like, not enforceable, right? There's no rules around this. It's not like if you don't use our bracket system, you're going to be banned. There's no bans attached to the bracket system, so there's no real enforcement mechanism. So I do wonder if players in mass are going to go with the bracket system. I believe Gavin at least has the best for the format in heart. Can't say the same about decision makers above him. Honestly, I believe that about, like, so I don't know all the non-designers. Like, I'm sure there's non-magic people who work at Wizards that are doing non-design jobs, like accountants and lawyers and things like that. So I have no idea about those people. But as far as people who are actively working on making Magic, I feel like that's true almost to a person. I don't think I've ever met like someone who works at Wizards and design cards that does not care about Magic and have its best interest in heart. They might disagree with what the best interest is. Like, maybe what they think is in Magic's best interest is different than what I think or what you think. But I think that's almost true with everyone like that at Wizards. I think that Gavin is just got the right personality for it, is the best at it, something along those lines. There's something that sets Gavin up above the rest. Maybe it's the way he communicates or how he interacts with the community. There's something that kind of puts Gavin in his own tier. But I honestly think that pretty much everyone who works at Wizards does want the best for Magic. Once you get up to like the management level, Hasbro, Aaron even said that, right? I think Aaron said, I'm the vice president. I want what's best for Magic. But obviously there's a push and pull or something with, people above me and Hasbro that isn't exactly always the same. So I think they kind of even admitted that, right? That, like, yes, I have a lot of leeway to do what I think is best, but yeah, there are people above me who are saying different things that we also have to listen to. Would you want all precons to be level 1, or would you want them to print level 2, 3, and 4 precons? It sounds like how they're doing it now is precons by definition are level 1. Like, that's almost the definition of level 1. I think that the problem with level 4 precons, I think the question they asked about reprints is actually a very good one, and I hadn't thought about that, and I think that is a concern. Like, if you end up with Demonic Tutor at level 4 or level 3, that might mean that it's a lot harder to reprint Demonic Tutor. Like, that might be an actual issue, right? Because precons are by definition level 1. If one card makes it the highest level, then you can't really reprint a 3. I think that's actually a big issue. I think the idea of printing a level 4 precon would be really cool. However, I think the price would be prohibitive. Hey, what's up, Lipinski? Good to see you. I'm also a little bit confused by that. There was not a lot about CDH. I'm curious, do we have any CDH players in here? Is there anyone that's like an actual active CDH player in the chat? I would love to hear your perspective on this stream, because I feel like there was not much for CDH players. There was like very brief minimal shout out about... There's like a very, very brief minimal shout out about, maybe it's somewhere in level 4 and we want a CDH person we want someone, from CDH on the committee or whatever we call it. Like, we got a little tiny bit like that, but we did not get a lot of specifics about CDH. If you're a CDH player, what did you make of this stream for your format? Yeah, they really need to have a represent. I think they will. I think they said that they need to have a CDH representative on the panel. What they're saying about the brackets is that Black Market Connections and Tremble and Pairs is tier 1. they kind of also admitted that if you think about it too hard, it falls apart. Like, also Dockside Extortionist and Teferi's Protection. Like, there are certainly cards printed in precons, which I think this might be a good thing. My hope is that because Wizards realizes this lack of consistency there, and they realize that, yeah, I think we gotta let this attack first so we can kill it while they're tapped down in case they have like a negate or something. But I think maybe it's a good thing that they realize that inconsistency. Maybe that will get them to change, because I think the biggest concern with the bracket, other than people just ignoring it, which I think is a possibility, but I think my biggest concern is just I really think grading by your single best card is not the best system. And I think questions like that, maybe that makes Wizards realize that. And I think there's other ways you could score it. I actively play CDH. This doesn't mean anything for us since we all play we all play at a 4. If anything, it just makes me want to make a tier 2 CDH deck, if that makes sense. Yeah, that was one of the questions I had, Phoenix Okel, is are we gonna end up in a situation where people are kind of min-maxing these lower tiers? And I imagine the answer is probably yes. That seems likely, at least. How do we do this? We can play Case of the Stash Skeleton. We need to find the Scavenger's Talent. That's kind of the missing piece. If we can find the Scavenger's Talent, we might be able to just pull off the combo kill. We also would like to not die to this invasion of Gabakhan. So chat, we always do this for spoilers. The hype level, up or down, after watching the stream. What's your hype level for this change now that you've seen the stream? Like, now that you've seen the stream, feeling better about the future of Commander? The same? Worse? Like, did this stream have an impact on your perception? Down a little bit? -5, -1, 1, hype, 5, no hype. Support the changes. Yeah, we'll just pass. Solve our case. Perhaps a point system with different totals for individual tiers. Yeah, or like a point system, that could work. Or like a point system where you don't grade based on your most powerful card, but on like the average of the cards in your deck. Also interesting, and I think this is going to be a problem. Yeah, maybe hype is the wrong word, but like, are you feeling better or worse about the future of Commander? Hype was probably a bad choice of words there. It was more like, there's been a lot of people concerned about Wizards taking over Commander. Are you feeling less concerned after this stream, more concerned, or unchanged? That's the question I was trying to get answered. Krusty Max for the 29th month. Welcome to the Fishbowl. Thank you so much for your subscription. Thank you. Instead of being the best card that determines your bracket, I'd like to see where the average amount of cards in your bracket, in your deck. Yeah, I was thinking something like that too. The other concern, yeah, min-maxing is a concern. I think that's a concern with the bracket thing in any form, though. Or I guess maybe just Magic. Please, as a creator and someone the community respects, explain to me why anyone should continue to buy product after this. Marketing chase cards, putting them in special bundles to get rid of every last bit of product. Then once content sales, you ban what I just paid for. So Resonant Villian, I think what's missing in that equation is how this actually went down. So yes, that is kind of what happened. That's the part that feels kind of rug pully. But I think the missing piece of that puzzle is that what actually happened is the RC banned these cards. And then, as far as I can tell, because Wizards dislike this choice so much, they essentially took over the RC. So I don't think Wizards ban those cards. Actually, like I'm very confident that Wizards did not really ban those cards. So that is kind of what happened, but I don't know if the blame can really be put on Wizards for that one. Yeah, let's just play this Preacher of the Schism. Get on a blocker. Would you put Doubling Season at 2? Ugh. I mean, that's Doubling Season's another one that shows just how hard it is. That's another one that shows just how hard it is to actually grade those cards. Like, Doubling Season, along with Planeswalkers, would dominate most casual games. It's so easy to just combo Doubling Season and a Planeswalker. There's so much context that goes into it. Doubling Season in a deck with no Planeswalkers and just +1/+1 counters, it's still strong, but it's not an immediate combo kill. The Anjam say the community gave format away, not a takeover. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've explained my position on it, that I believe this was happening either way. That Wizards was not thrilled about their cards being banned, and this was going to happen either way. And I think that the harassment, which is horrible, and all death threats and all that stuff, I think that hastened Wizards' takeover of the format. So that is my what I have reason to believe. What are your thoughts on having a specific card in your deck? What are your thoughts on having to share specific cards in your deck? Like, it feels like this will lead to people targeting people for just what's in their deck. Like, if you have a Heuristic Study in your deck, and that's your only 4-point card, if you have someone who shares a similar view as Hadean Tomer, hating on it so much, hyper-focusing on that player, for a card doesn't even the field. So I think, Calandro, what they would want the answer to be to this, and whether or not this answer is actually going to work the way it's supposed to, I'm not 100% sure. But I think what they want the answer to be is, if you have Heuristic Study in your deck and you want to play at a 3, you don't play Heuristic Study in your deck. I think that's how Wizards would like this to go down, if that makes sense, right? Like, I think that they want you to be like, okay, I don't want to play this deck against the strongest decks in the format, so I'm just going to take Heuristic Study out of this deck, and I'll play against... So rather than having to rule zero conversation, because I think that will happen, is if someone says, I'm playing Heuristic Study, and you hate Heuristic Study, you're probably going to go after the Heuristic Study player. Yes, that would probably happen. So I think that's what they're hoping would happen, is rather than you getting beaten down by Tomer because he hates Heuristic Study, that instead you would take your Heuristic Study out of that deck and maybe put it in a different deck in the future or something, but just not play it in that deck. I think the other side of that, this is something Krim mentioned on the podcast, and I think this is another concern I have with the bracket system, kind of comes from the other direction, where Krim was like, well, this is a great thing, right? Because some people really hate counter spells, and now if I play a counter spell and counter their stuff and they get salty, I can kind of point to the scoreboard and be like, hey, it's a 1. You know, you can't get salty about that. It's a 1. They said it's a 1. And I think that's my other concern with this, especially if they're only going to grade a handful of cards and grade 90 cards or like a list of staples or something. I think it's fair to be concerned that that people are going to, despite how it's feeling to you, that there's going to be like something you don't like playing against that's a 1 or a 2. And if you express, I really don't feel like playing against, like, there's a difference between being a Drago control deck where you try to just counter everyone's spell. Like, you're playing Baral with 40 counter spells and a deck that has an Arcane Denial in it. Like, if you're the 40 counter spell deck and your defense when people are like, I don't want to play you, is like, too bad, everything in my deck's a 1, like, get good. Like, that also doesn't seem very healthy, right? Like, that's also not a great way to interact with people. I think the bracket thing doesn't replace entire Rule Zero conversation. Yeah, I think the goal is that the bracket system will help inform or guide or make easier the Rule Zero / pregame conversation. What did you think about them unbanning cards? I was trying to pick up on that when they asked about that. Did you get any sense? Did you get any sense from Wizards that they might unban cards, they won't unban cards? Did you come away from that part of the conversation feeling anything? Any thoughts on if like they're actually gonna unban? They did say, I was also impressed that Gavin said straight up, we shouldn't have made, and we wouldn't make today, intentionally at least. What did he say? Arcane Signet was on the list. Dockside Extortionist was on the list. Mana Crypt was on the list. Jeweled Lotus was on the list. Like, those are not cards we're trying to make. So maybe that's a vote against them unbanning them. Is there cards that they actually legitimately feel like were mistakes? But they also sell a lot of packs. So they don't get the point. If you dislike their deck and their playstyle, don't you just not play with them? Who forces you to play with a person that loves Armageddon? Well, no, I think with this new system, Irish, so the idea they're going for is like, if your deck is a 1, then you should be okay to play against other ones. If every card in your deck is a 1, you shouldn't really need a pregame conversation, right? Like, your opponent's deck's a 1, you're a 1, so you just play the game. But if you build 1 to be as salty as possible, and your 1 is, 40 cancels, because that's the 1 power counter spell or whatever, like, that's still not going to necessarily lead to a good experience, or the experience that everyone was hoping for. I believe they will absolutely change the ban list. There's going to be different ways to do it, but I'm sure they'll change it, if not just the whole philosophy of how the list is curated. I think that's where we'll see a big change. Which I think is a good thing, because, oh man, if they didn't have a counter, we could win this game right now, but they do have a counter, so we can't win the game right now. So they play the Excruciator. Opponent's going to counter it. Oh, they have multiple. Oh. They're a control deck. Dirty Cram. What do you, what would you point to? Wait, where'd the question go? Each deck can be built at 4 different tiers now. Maybe. Like, I guess, in theory, unless your deck needs something from, like, tier 4 to do its thing, or to, like, function. But I guess, technically, that's sort of true, right? How much discussion was there on lands? Is a basic land 1 a Shaka 4? Is Urza's a 4? They did not talk about those at all, other than, I think Aaron mentioned something offhand about how... Something about, like, how fetch lands are some of the strongest cards in the game. I don't remember if he specifically said, but they'd be a 1, but, like, something to that extent. Like, is an example of a card that would obviously be very low on the scale. Did he directly say Pluto Delta was a 1? Okay, so he directly said, like, fetch lands are an example of a card that's some of the strongest cards in the game, but would be a 1 on this scale. So, yeah. So it seems like they're thinking of lands that way. I imagine that where you'll see lands higher on the scale is probably utility lands, or lands that make a bunch of mana. Like, I think just mana fixing lands, honestly, am I wrong to think that the alpha beta duels would actually be a 1? I think they would be. They're the greatest dual lands of all time. But honestly, even discounted, like, the only downside is the price issues, where they're just, like, so expensive. But I don't think you want price to be a determining factor in any of this. So I would say alpha beta duels should be the lowest tier, even though they're super expensive and not everyone's going to be able to play with them. But I think that they would be perfectly fine. We're going to see lands higher. Yeah, like a Phyrexian Tower, that's probably like a 3, maybe a 4. I think Gaia's Cradle, definitely a 4. Tolarian Academy, we'll finish the ban list after this game. I don't think Tolarian Academy is coming off the ban list, though. I expect that one is going to remain on the ban list. Yeah, I think lands that make more than 1 mana, Nykthos, Gaia's Cradle, Serra Sanctum, Phyrexian Tower, stuff like that, I think probably has to go up a higher tier. How is there a meaningful difference between 1 and 2? Even this is more nebulous bucket thing, 3 tiers sounds more effective. So we'll see what the actual definitions are, but I'm picturing, from what we've heard now, is 1 is precons, 4 is CDH, or as close to CDH as they get in their ranking scale. So 1 is precon, 4 is CDH, and then I guess I would assume like 2 is upgraded precons, and then 3 is like strong but not CDH, something like that. I guess where do you think Commander Clash decks would fit? Like, where would Commander Clash deck fit? 3? I mean, I guess by definition, if they stick to your highest score card determines your score, I guess that Commander Clash decks would be a 4 based on that definition. Although I don't think our decks are a 4 based on 4 being the CDH end of the scale. It's a 7. Our decks are all 7s, of course. They're always just 7s. I kind of hate playing this because we know they have the Lauren in hand, but I don't think we can. They're gonna have this in hand forever, so I think we just gotta run it out. Feels like lots of people accidentally will have a level 4 deck, and the system doesn't really end up working. Yeah, but remember, it's still early. It's still early. This is not the final form of the system. My thinking is that maybe they just changed the idea that your highest ranked card determines your deck score. I think that's like something that could change, hopefully. That would be my gut, is that Clash decks should be a 3. But we do run some, what I assume are going to be tier 4 cards. Like, I would imagine, what do you think the One Ring will be? I would imagine the One Ring's probably tier 4, right? I think it should be tier 4. If I was grading it, I would put it at tier 4. Same with like, same with like Smothering Tithe. I think Smothering Tithe is pretty clearly a tier 4. I should be tier, based on power level, it should be tier 4. I don't know, maybe it's a 3. Wow, you think the Ring definitely is a 2? Interesting. Did you like how they mentioned the same idea you had about making a website to find your deck rankings? I'm glad they thought that. Yes, I'm happy for that, because I do think that's the way you gotta do it. You gotta have some easy place that people can just plug this in, because what you don't want, I don't think, is a new player trying to build like one of their first Commander decks and having to go through this huge spreadsheet of hundreds of cards and do some math calculation to actually just play the deck, when they're like, I just want to try this game. Like, I just want to try this game. I want to play my Crawlworm. And you're telling me I have to do all this algebra to be able to play my Crawlworm. Maybe I'll just play Hearthstone. That's what I'd be afraid of. So I think making it as seamless as possible would be the way to go. I think people just need to start building for a specific power level in mind and fit to that. If you want your deck to be a 2, don't throw in a random heuristic study. But what if you really need card draw? What if you're playing a heuristic deck? What if every card in your deck has the word heuristic in it? Then can I play my heuristic study? Any new player making their first Commander deck is a daunting task regardless. Yeah, I mean, I imagine that for a lot of it, will Goldfish videos include brackets in the title? I mean, all of this is very far in the future. My guess would be no, because I mean, if it becomes a real thing that people are using and we're all doing, I think it's something we would mention somewhere. Probably unlikely to be in the title because it just seems very clunky. But I think if we actually started like playing around with power levels and so forth, I think that would lead to us putting in the article or in the description or something like that. Commander Clash with 1 bracket decks. Yeah, I mean, I guess unless it was part of the theme. If it was part of the theme, it'd probably be in the title. If the idea was, can we, whatever, what's the strongest 1 bracket deck we can actually build or whatever. Could Breathe Life into the Gather? Oh man, I hope not. I hope One thing I've learned is that the community is way better at making websites than Wizards is. I hope that if we do this, that it's like Scryfall or something. Like there's gotta be there's gotta be a better way of doing this than actually literally just using Gatherer. Well, let's start in Duress. So one issue I'm running into with this deck, opponent's going to negate the Duress. One issue we're running into with this deck is having the Doomsday Excruciator, but not having any way to actually win the game with it. Jeez, the counter spells. Our opponent believes in the counter magic. That's for our opponent's that's a 4. Our opponent's playing a 4. They didn't warn us. I thought we were playing 1s. Mike Sky, pub stomping, playing all the 4s in the 1 bracket. Mike Sky. Yes, we'll draw a card. Opponent's very aggressive activating this Lauren. Yeah, this deck's pretty janky. Doomsday Excruciator is pretty janky. Rakdos the Muscle wins with a Doomsday Excruciator. Opponent. Yeah, that could be worth including. I could see that. Well, I guess we block with this greedy. This has been the grindiest meaningless game. Well, sure, we'll keep a Preacher of the Schism. Not that we're going to be able to resolve it, but... Well, let's kill this Lauren, because our opponent apparently just uses it to draw every counter spell. I guess we probably should have done it earlier. I wasn't expecting our opponent just to use it. Wow, opponent, they are the biggest believers in this Lauren. Is this like a... What is our opponent doing? Are they playing a control deck with Crawling Chorus? Is that what's happening? What if we just run out the Excruciator? We lose. Most likely. Oh, they have a creature land. Yeah. All right. You gotta be paying more attention. All right. Let's forget that Excruciator actually exists. Do you think that Helping Hands Abhorrent Oculus deck is tier? I mean, what's your definition of tier? Like, tier 1, one of the best decks in the format? Probably not. Like a solid tier 2, tier 2.5 deck? Probably. I think, like, it's a deck that people play and people have had success with. It's a deck that is very soft to graveyard hate, and it also has like relatively few threats. So I think it's kind of matchup dependent. It can get very quick wins. It's one of those, it's almost like a Jankum out deck to some extent, where you can put your opponent to the test and be like, I have this 5/5 on turn 3 or turn 3 is as soon as you can do it, but I have this 5/5 on turn 3. Can you beat it? And sometimes the answer is no, but there's also games where you only have like 4 Oculuses and 4 Honeyshins. You run into Golgari, and they're just like, go for the throw, whatever, cut down, and you're just like, oh, okay, like, yeah, I guess I'll just cast Charted Courses until I die. All right, let's look over the rest of this ban list, and then I gotta go take Bear out. So we went through most of the ban list before the WotC stream, but to finish off the Commander ban list, so we talked about Golos. Grizzlebrand, I don't know, maybe one of you got to talk me out of this, but Grizzlebrand should just straight up be unbanned, right? Like, what is the reason in 2024? This is another card that, when it was banned 12 years ago, it was a jaw-dropping card. Now it's worse than Atraxa. It's like not better than a lot of things. Yeah, you can draw 7 cards, sure, whatever. You can draw 7 cards and not pay any life with Atraxa. Like, I actually think Grizzlebrand should be unbanned. I actually think it should be unbanned. I don't even know if we're going by brackets. I guess maybe it's a 4. Is it even that strong? I don't know. Is it even? I'm not convinced it's that strong compared to the other options. So Grizzlebrand, it seems like I might be in the minority thinking it should be unbanned, but that's one I could actually see coming off. Hole Breacher, no. Don't even. I don't want to even see one of you argue for this. I'm watching chat intently, seeing if anyone dares. Anyone wanna step up and defend the honor of Hull Breacher? Is there anyone in the unbanned Hull Breacher camp? Whoa! El Mayo, really? Wait, I don't even think, Krim, if Krim's here, Krim would be going for it. This one, I don't even think you want this unbanned in 4. Like, even if you're gonna unban this and put it in 4 in the CDH tier, I still don't think that would be, I mean, I don't play that much CDH, so maybe a CDH player is gonna be like, well, actually, we love Hull Breacher, but I don't think anyone wants Hull Breacher in their format. I'm pretty sure no one wants Hull Breacher. Iona. So Hull Breacher, I'm a hard no on. Iona, okay. So I know y'all are going to hate me for this, but does Iona really need to be banned? Does it really need to be banned? Okay, how about this? We were talking about banned as commander, where you can play the card in the 99, but not as your commander. What about banned in the 99? I feel like Iona, if Iona, you have to spend 9 honest to goodness manas on it, it's probably okay. Like, if you're just making your planes and, on turn 9, you're casting your Iona, that's probably fine. If you're doing turn 1, Entomb, Reanimate Iona, and naming, the monocolor deck, that's probably kind of sad for the monocolor player. I almost wish you could do banned in the 99, because I feel like as a commander, Iona's fine. If you want to build Iona Angels and try to, get up to 9 mana, go for it. In the 99 is a reanimation target. That's where the card can actually be kind of scary. But still, I don't know. I didn't even really want this one banned when it got banned. I just never had bad experiences with it. I know that those experiences exist. I just never really saw people playing it like that much. Was it a common card in your playgroups before it got banned? You remember Fiend deck in your Fan Clash episode? I'd run the heck out of it. Oh yeah, I do remember Blood Moon Go. Yeah, if you're doing stuff like that, it would be brutal. All right, maybe there's too many decks that can abuse it. Jewel Lotus, we're not even getting into this one. This one just got banned. You know where I stand on this. I think Commander's better without it. My expectation, though, is they would unban it, even though it's a mistake and it's like a bracket 4 card for CDH or something. I think that Wizards will just they'll want to be able to sell them. That's my 100% thinking on these cards. Is they're just gonna want to be able to make money off of them, so they're gonna unban them. Maybe that doesn't actually happen. We'll have to wait and see. But Wizards did say on the stream that they consider making Jewel Lotus a mistake. That doesn't mean it's gonna stay banned, but they do consider it to be a mistake. Caracas, I'm surprised that they have not yet printed a commander version of Caracas. Caracas needs to stay banned, because it's a land that taps to bounce anyone's commander, and the whole point of commander is to build around your commander, right? So it would be a very, very frustrating card where you just bounce your commander again and again and again. I actually think, in a weird way, I would like a Caracas that excluded commanders. I hate the word commander being on a Magic card, and I can't think of another way to word it to get rid of that, so maybe this is the horrible idea. But all this to say, if there was Caracas that said return target non-commander legendary creature, or target legendary creature that isn't a commander to its owner's hand, I think that would actually be a cool card to exist. But I think because Commander cares about legends, they're not going to do it. Leovold. This is another one. This is kind of like original Hull Breacher almost. Not as bad as Hull Breacher, but Leovold's pretty brutal. I think I could see Leovold being in the 99. I think being in the 99 it would be okay. As your commander, it's just too easy to combo with wheels. That's kind of the issue, right? Like, yeah, Leovold's very annoying to play against. It's not a fun experience. I would be fine with it just staying fully banned. I could see it being banned as a commander if we went back that direction. Maybe you could make it level 4 legal, but I'm not even sure you can make it level 4 legal. It's just so good. Library of Alexandria, this has the reserve list issue. I think power level wise, it's very strong, but a land that draws a card sometimes and only makes colorless mana, I think power level wise, it would actually be okay. It would be good, but I think it would actually be okay. I don't think, though, because of supply issues, you can unban it. Because this is another card, there's just not enough copies to go around, and they can't make more of them because of the reserve list. But this is a card you've seen, even in recent years, people talking about, like in Vintage Cube. This has gone down and down in people's pick orders because they just don't think it's that good anymore. So yeah, it was banned because of the kind of the price optics, and I think it's gonna stay that way. Limited resources. This one I think we can all agree on. When it comes into play, each player sacks down to 5 lands, but then, as long as there are 10 or more lands on the battlefield, players cannot play lands. And this is a 1 mana enchantment. This card is absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. So the difference is, at least the dual lands were printed and revised, which was for its time, a high supply core set. Something like Library of Alexandria was only ever printed in Legends. It's like a super duper low supply card. So I think that's kind of the difference, is there's way more going around. Limited resources, there's no way they can unban this card. The fact that it just, Crim would love it. This is like the ultimate Crim white card. This card's so brutal. It's one of those cards that was just made for 1v1, right? Like, in a 1v1 game, everyone gets 5 lands. You can't ramp above 5 lands. Perfectly fine. In a 4-player game, 10 lands is, 2.5 per player? You can't. What are people going to do if they're stuck on 2 lands? Like, what if your enchantment removal is Beast Within, and you're stuck on 2 lands for the whole game, and you can never play another land to get it off the battlefield? So I can't see that happening. Lutri just needs to be banned as companion. I don't know why they knew this to begin with. Just be like, yeah, play it in your 99. This is the card I will rule 0 the most often. Like, if you want to play Lutri in your 99, you don't even got to ask me. Don't even ask me. You can just play it. I don't even care. Just play it in your 99. The companion thing, it just interacts really poorly with Commander. So if there was a way to make this just banned as companion, but you can play it as your commander or in the 99, I would be perfectly fine with that. And I think it would be like a 1, a 2. Like, it would be, if it's not your companion, I think it would be a very fine card. Mana Crypt, same as Jewel Lotus. We just talked about this one. It's one of those cards that I think the format's better without, but we've went through a whole week of drama. No reason to rehash all of that now, but I think they could unban it in the future. Remember, I said they didn't say anything about no more companions. Get ready for your perfect 5 companions in 90. They know better than that. They know better. Nadu, okay, is there anyone, this is another one. Were any of you even upset when they unbanned Nadu? I think, lost in all of the drama of the past week, people were upset about Dockside to some extent. People were livid about Jewel Lotus. People were sending death threats over Mana Crypt. And Nadu, no one said a word. No one said a word about Nadu. Even the people most angry about these bans, I did not hear one single person peep up and be like, you know what? They really messed up by banning Nadu. Not a one. Not a single one. It's just so miserable. It's not fun to play against. It's not fun to play with. Wizards admitted a mistake. It's still in every possible way, that card, it should not exist. I think even Wizards would say at this point, it just should not exist. And its play pattern, just the 20-minute turns, means that they're never going to unban it. Panoptic Mirror is interesting to me. Panoptic Mirror, I think I'm convinced this card should be unbanned. So it's a 5-mana artifact that you can pay, you can imprint a sorcery on by paying X and tapping it, and you exile the instant or sorcery from your hand with that mana value. And at the beginning of your upkeep, you can copy the imprinted instant or sorcery and play that copy without paying its mana cost. So this would ban in 2005. 2005, almost 20 years ago. So I believe that the issue with this is extra turn spells, right? So you have Panoptic Mirror, you put a Time Walk under it, and you just take all the turns. It's a very expensive, if you're going to put a Time Warp under this, it's 5 for Mirror, 5 more to exile the Time Warp. But then if your opponent does not have instant speed interaction, you'll just get to take all the turns for the rest of the game. So I guess maybe you leave it banned because what good can come of this? It's almost like Bridge from Below, right? Bridge from Below in Modern, people all the time are like, Wizards even admitted that it was a mistake to ban Bridge from Below, and they actually should have banned Hogak, which I think is true. But Bridge from Below either no one ever plays it and it doesn't matter, or it's the most busted card in its format and everyone hates it. There's no like, I played a very fair Bridge from Below deck today. That's not a thing that happens. Panoptic Mirror might be the same way, where it's like, yeah, most of the time no one will play it. And when people do play it, it's going to be really like this infinite turn combo. Maybe we just don't actually care about having that in the format at all. Paradox Engine. I'm sure there's going to be some defenders of Paradox Engine. Paradox Engine defenders. Do you actually want this card unbanned? This is one that I hear people talk about a lot, wanting unbanned. I think I know why some people want to unban, because I think some people played this card in a way that maybe wasn't problematic. Maybe some people had fun with this card and just like untapped their mana rocks once and did a little rampant with it or something. My experience is Paradox Engine, it's like the Nadu problem. Nadu's worse in some ways because it can be your commander, but the problem with Paradox Engine is just eating up all the time at the table. That's kind of the issue. It is so broken though, Gnome. Yeah, that's kind of the issue with it. Is like it's not that it's necessarily too powerful. It's that it leads to this long non-deterministic combo turn that you just got to sit through and hope your opponent fizzles. So I'm firmly on that one staying out. Primetime 5 years ago, I thought it should be unbanned. Primetime today, I think should stay banned. And that's because, hear me out. If you had asked me this a few years ago, I fully was an unbanned Primetime. What has changed for me is Wizards likes printing really strong utility lands, and I think they're going to keep printing really strong utility lands. And in a world with Field of the Dead and just getting your Cabal coffers and all that, like, I kind of worry about that aspect of it. Like, I think its original issue of like, oh, people are going to clone it a bunch of times and the game will resolve around Primeval Titan. I don't really buy the original justification for banning it, but I do think the power creep of utility lands makes me less interested in freeing Primeval Titan. I will say, since we're talking about Primeval Titan, I'm actually more open to unbanning Sylvan Primordial. What do we think about Sylvan Primordial? Sylvan Primordial, 7 mana, 6/8 reach. When it enters, you pull up a non-creature permanent for each opponent, and then you get a forest for each one that was blown up that way. So essentially, it is kind of like a 6-for-1 or something, 7-for-1. The upside of Sylvan Primordial is it only gets forest, right? So this isn't finding Field of the Dead. It's not finding Glacial Chasm. It's not finding Cabal Coffers or Nykthos or anything. The downside is it is blowing up one of each of your opponent's permanents. If there was like a no blink clause on this, I wonder if Wizards will ever do that. Like, if this card leaves the battlefield, exile it. Does that even work? Because a lot of blink exiles. I wonder if there's a way you could put a no blink clause on this. Like, if this could not be blinked or Panharmonicon or anything, I think a one-shot Primordial is kind of okay. But once you start abusing it, it becomes very bad. Prophet of Kruphix. I know a lot of people like Prophet of Kruphix. This is another one I hear a lot of, like, unbanned Prophet of Kruphix. The card's absurd, though. The card, like, just power level of the card is kind of absurd. Untapping all of your lands each turn and giving flash is just, like, the most ridiculous value engine for a creature deck. I love the card, but it has to stay banned. I also like Prophet of Kruphix. I remember having fun playing with Prophet of Kruphix, but I don't think it. If they unban this, it would have to be like a 4. It would have to be like a bracket 4 card, and even there, I'm not sure that we really want it unbanned. Recurring Nightmare. I mean, it's repeatable reanimation for 3 mana. It does make you sack something. It can lead to some really big value loops. I will say I tried playing this in one of our no ban list episodes, and it was actually very good. It was very good. Just like, it was very good. I love this is one of my favorite cards on the ban list, though. I love playing Recurring Nightmare. I love it. It is very slow. It scoops to counters. It scoops to graveyard hate. So it can be interacted with. Its art is so cool. I kind of lean to, I think, you know what? This would be a fine CDH card. This might be a level 4 unban. Like in CDH, where everyone's Thoracling on turn 2 or whatever, like when that's the pace of the format, I cannot imagine at level 4 commander, if they do the bracket thing, that this would be a problem. In level 1 commander or 2 commander, where you're all playing like lower powered stuff, this card's probably like a non-starter. Chthonian Nightmare is already in CDH. Chthonian Nightmare is cheaper though, right? Chthonian Nightmare might just be better in CDH. If you're only in casual, it's worse because you want to get back these big, like huge creatures. But I imagine in CDH, you're just getting back the cheap things anyway. Oh, the green screen ghost is back. You're right. All right, let's finish off our ban list. Rafellos. Bandis Commander. This is another Bandis Commander one. In the 99, yeah, the card's really good. But we have a lot of really good mana dorks. Like, if you want to draw this in your 99, play it in a mono green deck, play it on turn 2, try to make 2 or 3 mana on turn 3, more power to you. The consistency of having it from the command zone, and if it lives, it kind of helps pay for the command tax in a weird way. I feel like, as a commander, we probably don't want it. Shahrazad, no. Actually, yes. Let's unban Shahrazad. I think we should just. I wanna go to Magic on Vegas, and I wanna go with some people. And on day 1, we start a game of Commander with Shahrazad in every deck, and see if we can finish it before the end of the weekend. Because I think the answer is no. This is a card we have talked about doing content for. We have talked for a year now. Like, how do we do a Shahrazad Commander game? How do we do a Shahrazad game? And it always comes down to, I don't think the game ends. Like, I think that we do like a 24-hour stream. Like, how else do you do this? You do a 24-hour stream. It's like the most miserable thing of all time. And it's just like every time the game almost ends, someone Shahrazards, and you start another game. If you've never seen this card, you play it for 2 mana, and you start another game of Magic. You start another game of Magic with the same decks, not using the cards on the battlefield. And then whoever loses half their life. They loses half their life. So you play an entire game of Magic. So eventually it gets to the point where everyone's Shahrazad Panoptic Mirror. Eventually it gets to the point where people are low on life, and you have to play a whole game of Magic for what is equivalent of like 2 life or something. It would be a great charity stream. That's a way to do it, is get a bunch of people to do it. Sundering Titan, if y'all don't like Sylvan Primordial, you probably don't like Sundering Titan. Triggering when it leaves and enters means it blows up 10 lands. It's colorless. It's easy to reanimate. Sway of Stars. My brain does not comprehend why they unbanned. Can you scoop in the subgame? I think you are allowed to scoop. I mean, I think you can always scoop in a game of Magic. You would just have to scoop and take the half your life total. I've never understood why they unbanned Wildfire, not Sway of Stars. As far as I can tell, these cards are essentially the same. I know Sway of Stars puts you to 7, Wildfire to 1, or Worldfire to 1, but still, they're so similar. It's essentially 10 mana, everyone loses all of their stuff, and players go to a low life total. So I actually think if we're fine with Worldfire being a card, then I think we should also be fine with this being a card. Like, I think we have to, just for logical consistency. Time Vault, yeah. Old, expensive, and also super powerful. Time Walk on the Power 9. Tinker, probably the most busted card in Magic. Like, now we pay 3 mana for Fabricate. We pay 3 mana for Fabricate to tutor an artifact into our hand. Tinker is just straight up like, 3 mana, let me put that artifact onto the battlefield. I don't even think you could have this in CDH, right? This would be too good even in CDH, I believe. Tolarian Academy, I know people are going to be like, okay, so Gaia's Cradle's legal, right? Why is Gaia's Cradle? Sarah Sanctum, that's legal. That's Tolarian Academy for enchantments. The problem with Tolarian Academy in specific is artifacts are colorless and they're cheap. So unlike enchantments or creatures that usually cost colored mana and more mana, it's very easy to go 0 mana artifact, 0 mana artifact, 0 mana artifact, Tolarian Academy, Windfall, 0 mana artifact, 0, like just untap my Tolarian Academy. Then you've essentially built the most broken deck in the history of Standard. So I feel like it is fair in my mind that this one is banned when the rest that are similar are not banned. I'm more in the like just ban Cradle too, ban Sarah Sanctum too if you want to. I would be fine with both of those being banned. Trade Secrets. The card that just lets 2 players draw their decks. This card, the best part about this card is when Wizards started doing Commander precons, they actually put trade secrets in a precon. They put it in a precon. They printed it in a Commander precon, and then the RC banned it a couple of years later. Because the card is it's not that it's too powerful. I guess it is too powerful, but it just does not work with Commander format. What target breaks Tinker? So Tinker targets. Usually one of the easiest is just like Blightsteel to kill someone is one of the ways to go. In Vintage, you also see it played with Time Vault, where you get the Time Vault and go infinite with it. Time Vault is banned though. I missed some cards after Prime Time. Did I? Prophet Crew Fix? I think we got all the cards after Prime Time. Rafello, Charizard, Sundering Titan. Finally, Upheaval. Upheaval is one of my favorite cards. Bolas Citadel is another good one. Sundering Titan on the ban list, but also good. I love Upheaval. Even if they unbanned Upheaval, I would not play it in Commander. I couldn't bring myself to do it. Like, the hard reset. I will remember. Okay, let me tell you this story real quick. There's a card called World Purge. And I was trying to teach my little brothers to play Magic. I was like, hey, let's play some Magic. For some reason, I don't even know why, I had a deck that had World Purge in it. And World Purge is return all permanents to their owner's hands. So that includes lands. And then everyone chooses 7 cards. They keep those 7 cards, the rest go in their library. So basically just hard reset, including lands, for 8 mana. I played this card in a game where I was teaching my little brothers how to play Magic. They never played Magic again. That was the end of it. That was the end of it. They could not, like, why would this exist? What are you even doing? This is not, we're trying to play this game and all you did is like nothing. You just did nothing except make this game take an extra 5 hours. Like, there's no, and Upheaval does the same thing, right? Upheaval's kind of similar, and it's just like the hard reset, especially when people don't know how to play it. Once you know how to play Upheaval and break the symmetry of it, it actually is a win con. So I think this falls into like the Armageddon thing where, like, yes, you can play Armageddon responsibly and you only cast it if you have a win con and then everyone scoops and it's fine. Upheaval's kind of the same, where if you can do it responsibly, where you like float a ton of mana, you replay your board, your opponents can't replay their board, you essentially just win the game when you resolve it. If you can do that, it's fine, but that doesn't always actually happen. Yawgmoth's Bargain. Pay a life, draw a card. Perhaps the scariest text written on a Magic card. I know Necro is legal, and Necro's only 3 mana. This was actually supposed to be a fixed Necro. That was the idea of Yawgmoth's Bargain. We'll double its mana cost, and it'll be perfectly fine. It was not perfectly fine. The scary thing about Yawg Bargain, at least Necro gives you the card on your end step. Same with Necro Dominance. You have to wait until your end step. This is just like the scariest card in any sort of Storm deck, because you can... Yeah, I mean, so Yawg Bargain I think is stronger because it gives you the card right away, right? So you can, let's say you had Bolas' Citadel, Yawg Bargain, you get cast up with the Citadel, and then whenever you hit the extra land that you couldn't use, you just pay 1 to Yawg Bargain to keep going. Like, in any sort of combo deck, Shieldred, any sort of combo, it's just like really, really easy. So it actually has, in trying to fix Necro, they made a way more expensive card, but a card that I think is actually more powerful than Necro. Just the text on this card is better than Necro's text. So yeah, I would say, if we just go back to the full list, the cards I would feel comfortable unbanning, now that we went through this, I can see the arguments against Coalition Victory. I'm in the unbanned Coalition Victory camp. I think unbanned Coalition Victory would be good. Unbanned Gifts Ungiven. So Coalition Victory unban. Gifts Ungiven, I think, is very safe to unban. What else was on the... And then we get to the kind of like tricky ones where unban... actually, Grizzlebrand, I think, is safe to unban. Then we get to the ones that are like safe to unban with an asterisk. So, like Lutri, if you just say you can't play it as your companion, safe to unban. I think if you do banned as commander, Arreo, and Braids... and Rafellos are all safe to unban. If you have banned as your commander come back, I don't think you want them to come back normally if you're not doing ban as commander. So I think something like that is where Golos in the 99, I guess. Yeah, maybe if you have ban as commander, you can let almost any legend be fine. Thoughts on Braids? Braids, I don't think you can have be a commander. When we talked about Braids earlier, I think that's kind of the problem. Like, when you have it in the command zone and you can just fast mana into it super consistently, I think Braids is a very unfun card. If it's in the 99 and you gotta draw it, and then you gotta have the fast mana and all that stuff, and you can't just replay it from the command zone if it dies, then I think it's fine. So I think this is one of those cards that if we had banned as commander again, it would be fine. Otherwise, probably gotta leave it, but... Anyway, everyone, wow, interesting stream today. We played some Magic, we lost some Magic, we learned about Commander, we went through the Commander ban list. I think that brings us to the end of our stream for today. So I'm gonna have to run off and take Bear out. Bear's been waiting very patiently to go out. So reminders on the way out the door. Replay YouTube. That's when we find all the old streams, including this one in the future. Normal YouTube. Sweet Against Odds coming up tomorrow. Keep an eye out for that. One more shout out to our sponsor, Card Kingdom. If you need some magical cards, you can get them over at cardkingdom.com/mtggoldfish and even get a free goldfish sticker. Just let them know you want one in your order notes and they'll hook you up. Most importantly, thank you to all of you. Thanks for hanging out for the early stream, checking out this ban list, this commander stream, all that stuff. I love y'all. Y'all are amazing. Thanks for hanging out today. Seriously, be good. And yeah, I'll see you next week for another one. Until then, have an amazing day. And I will talk to you soon.